Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to Racing Post Live, brought to you in association with the Betfair Exchange. My name is Ross Brierley. Do not adjust your sets. It is not Dave Orton in disguise. He's having a day off. He's left his shoes under the desk, so I am here to fill them for the afternoon with Grade 1 action, of course, from Haydock, with the Betfair Chase being the feature event of the afternoon. And we've got much more besides that as well. Of course, a couple of cracking Grade 2s over at Ascot as well, and some nice handicaps, graduation chases. You name it, we've pretty much got it here this afternoon. What we've definitely got, though, is unseasonably fast ground. It's more like Newton Abbot in August than Haydock and Ascot in November, looking at the times for those opening races. So very different horses coming to the fore than you would necessarily expect for this afternoon's big races. But hopefully that should make it a little bit easier to narrow the field. Hopefully we'll see some nice winners as well. And of course, we'll have the inevitable Cheltenham Festival quotes for pretty much any horse that actually completes the track in any vague sort of performance. So that's what the jump season's all about, isn't it? It's all about March. No, it's not. This afternoon, of course, we'll be focusing on Ascot and Haydock, and it's live and interactive, of course, as well. So if you're watching at home on YouTube or Facebook, please like and subscribe to that stream. I've got the chat box for YouTube right in front of me, so we'll have plenty of time to delve into your thoughts and feelings for this afternoon. So before we get to those big races and hopefully some big shouts as well, let's get involved with our panel for the afternoon. Starting off to my left with the debutante in the Racing Post Live studio, but from Hong Kong to Haydock, it all comes alike. For Mr. John Blance. John, absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. You forgot Hexham as well. Hong Kong to Hexham to Haydock. Yeah, all the H's. It's really is great to be here. I've managed to get myself out of children's parties and stuff this afternoon, so it's great to sit here and just watch the racing with you guys.
Is it your children, or you're an entertainer on the side as well?
No. It's my kids, and they've got my wife is, as some will know, my wife is Latin American, so there's a big Latin American party for lots of kids, and I'm just not having to do that, which is really a bit of a bonus, to be perfectly honest. So there we go. It's great just to say, watch the racing on a Saturday afternoon.
So did we approach you, or did you feverishly email everyone saying I need to get out of it?
I didn't. And a lot of the times my Saturdays aren't necessarily my own in terms of some of the work I've got to do elsewhere. But I was available today, and I was asked, and I thought yes, it'll be should be a good afternoon. I'm looking forward to it. It's an afternoon. There's a lot of stuff on racing social media at the moment, isn't there, about small fields, etc., etc. But I think, yes, the fields aren't as big as they could be, and obviously the ground is not what we'd expect for late November, but I still think if you've delved into the form, there are one or two really good betting opportunities and should be really entertaining races to enjoy as the afternoon progresses.
Yeah, they are small fields, but they're not... pretty much every race you're looking at it going, OK, you've earned your place here.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, that Stayers Hurdle used to be old fixed brush hurdle, didn't it, a few years ago? That looks a really interesting race. Obviously, a couple of horses towards the top of the market are there maybe on a bit of a nudge and a wink, but there are some really good potential chances down there at really nice prices. So I think it's a definite race to have a go at. There are one or two. If that Hurst Park handicap chase at Ascot had just one more runner in it, it would be a wonderful betting medium. But still 7 runners, decent prices, and one or two that really like it round there who should go well. So yeah, it's a good card.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll find some winners as well along the way with John. And to John's left, last time I saw him, we were discussing Del Mar and red-hot temperatures and Grade 1 flat action rattling around the Chester of the West Coast by the looks of things. Today, Haydock and Ascot for Tom Collins. Very different.
Yes, versatility is my middle name, Ross. Well, it's not. It's actually Peter. But I'm looking forward to the action today. Obviously, we're lacking the quantity, but we've got the quality. I'm really hoping that Defi Desoy can bounce back.
Oh, right, OK. Is that a head or a heart selection?
Both. I think I love the horse. I think he's fantastic, and I think today is going to be the opportunity for Philip Hobbs's leading stayer leading 2 miler, to bounce right back to form after what we can only describe as a very disappointing 2020 campaign.
Yeah, I mean it's very disappointing 2020 for most people,
yes.
Horses and human alike. So I think we can. Well, you're hoping we can forgive him that.
Yeah, I think he's a class horse in the race. Now, it is obviously a very good race. There are 3 Grade 1 winners in there, but he's a 7-time Grade 1 winner. He only had 2 starts last year. Philip Hobbs' team were just in a rut, basically. And I think today the pace is going to suit him as well. He should just bounce back.
He could do a Sporting John.
He could, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, lovely stuff. Right, then John and Tom in the studio. We'll also be catching up with Barry Orr live from the track ahead of the Betfair Chase a little bit later on. But stepping into Barry's shoes at home to be our Betfair representative, it's also a Racing Post a live debut for Ryan McCue. Ryan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ross. I'm glad to step into Barry's shoes. They're big enough shoes to fill, as you can imagine. So hopefully I do a decent job and pick up a few winners.
Lovely stuff. And you've already passed the first test of anyone dialing into a racing show from Skype, and you've got a racing-related picture behind you.
Yeah, I don't think he once ran on a Saturday. The horse was involved in a few years ago. He was a low-grade handicapper they called an Elliott trained for me and a few of my mates called Canny Tom. You've probably never heard of him. He was second 9 times for us. He won twice, so he was just one of them horses that kind of we ended up getting attached to. But yeah, I don't think he ever ran on a Saturday. He wasn't quite that good.
Right. Okay. Well, like I said, we can't all operate at the levels of JP, can we?
No, exactly. Well, I wouldn't mind if he came in and tried to buy him off us. Maybe 1 or 2 of his runs when he was second in one of his horses, but that offer never came along, and we had to offload him for quite small money.
Okay, well, we'll speak to you throughout the afternoon then, Ryan, and get your selections and how to play on the exchange. Of course, personally, the joy of 6 or 7 runner fields, Ryan, is playing those 3-place markets on Betfair. So hopefully we can find a few angles.
Yeah, exactly, Ross. And even talking through the small fields today, I think there's only 1 odds-on chance in the 7 races we're covering. Brave Man's game in the first. So as you said, they are small fields, but I think back in her lane, I think there's definite plays in most of them. So hopefully we can pick up a few winners today. Okay,
lovely stuff. So get in touch at home as well. Like I said, if you want to get your selections out, we've already got a few people chatting away in the chat. I do tend to think that sometimes people aren't even watching us at all. They're just having their own private conversations. So we'll see what comes up. But good afternoon to Mally Draycott and Frizzy Red. Baron C has got in touch as well. Carol Ann Najinski is at home. Lovely stuff. Got some celebs and George Murray as well got in touch at home too. So keep those messages coming. And don't forget, we've got a big offer on the Racing Post app as well. The Christmas countdown continues. So if you want to get a chance to win a fantastic prize for you and your mates ahead of the Cheltenham Festival in the spring, all you need to do is place a bet on the app for the ultimate Cheltenham Festival experience. We've got all sorts of prizes there as well, and you just have to bet on the Racing Post app on the below dates and get involved, and you will be entered into that draw for the ultimate Cheltenham Festival experience. Although I would argue the ultimate Cheltenham Festival experience also includes riding or owning a winner, perhaps, but we can't quite arrange that for you. As we get stuck in then, let's have a look at what we've got for you today. We start off with just a 4-runner race over at Haydock, a graduation chase. But before we do that, let's have a look at best bets or what you're fancying ahead of the game. We were talking off air, John, and you said you like to get your opinions in pre-race. So
well, yeah, this is a show that's often predicated on lots of in-running betting. I am not one of nature's great in-running punters. I've nothing ideologically against it. I just don't do it much myself.
I mean, as a call, you've got all the, in theory, you've got all the skills. You've got the race reading ability.
Yeah, I pretty much would back my race reading ability to be all right. But I've never really got it. But I always feel that for the 2 or 3 good days you'd have, there's always one catastrophic one happening, and as we all know, there's still plenty of 1.01s that get gubbed.
I mean, we've had one today already.
Well,
at Haydock, we've had right. Just confirm that we had a 101 in the staying handicap chase.
Handicap chase, yeah.
Yeah, for over 13,000 sterling was matched a 101, and the eventual winner was matched at 150 and running. So. I can see why John might want to stay away, but they're there for people who want to back their people.
Yeah, exactly. So it should be fun and games. So what's the nap for you?
Well, A Plus Tard is not a particularly great price, but I think is by far the most likely winner of the major race today. Basically because I think the race is going to be absolutely beautifully set up for him.
Okay.
Next Destination, Paul Nicholls has said that basically this is his big day. That's the race they've targeted for him, certainly in the early part of the season. He will definitely go forward.
Well, they pulled him out. He's not running, isn't he? Next Destination, just double check.
I didn't even know. Let me have a look.
Just to confirm, Ryan, I'm not wrong about that, mate.
He's not gone mad. He's out since early this morning.
He's out. Oh well, there we go. Okay. Well, that's going to make things slightly different from a technical perspective, because he was going to go forward, pressure Bristol de Mai, and then A Plus Tard, who's had those 2 runs. And it's interesting because the Savills Chase that he won at Plutard, they did go a strong gallop, and he sort of picked them off. Cheltenham Gold Cup, obviously, he was second. It looked to the naked eye like it was a sort of really strongly run race from start to finish, but it was actually a little bit tactical, or a little bit sort of stoppy-starty, to use a race reader's term.
Technical term,
and he still managed to, run a really good race. I think it's been proven, really, that his ideal trip is this 3 miles or 3 miles plus. I would still have him very much as the most likely winner of the race, but with Next Destination out, that is going to be I'll be not quite as confident as I would have been, given the way the race was definitely going to set up in those circumstances. So.
I mean, the joy of, again, the fact that this is a Betfair show is that you might get another horse surprisingly takes on the front runner, and suddenly then you might be able to play at Plutard after a couple of fences.
Well, that's true, yes, and hopefully, if Bristol Demise really kicking along and another horse wants to go and join him, then I think, and as I say, at Plutard might just have it set up for him by Bristol Demise, but I was basically. It's not going to be a pace burn-up, was it, Bristol Demise versus Next Destination, but it was going to be ticking the race along nicely, and at Plutard would have been sitting mid-division, just a little bit behind mid-division maybe. It is a fascinating race in terms of, waiting patiently. What can we get from him on the big stable change? He's moved from up north to down there in South Wales, has the unique training experience that Christian Williams brings. Will that re-enliven him? Imperial Aura is interesting on the comeback trail as well. And
but the Plutard he's the solid one, isn't he? He's absolutely.
I think he still is. Yeah. I mean, so what price is he now?
5 to 4-ish. I think.
Well, so there we go. I mean, I still think that's a pretty decent price. I am not one of nature's 4,000 on to win 5 men, but if I was, I'd still be relatively confident. There's a bit of chat, isn't there, about he hasn't always produced his best first time. Yeah. But if you actually look at those runs, they weren't terrible.
No. And it's very different, isn't it? Prepping a horse for a Grade 1 first time.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
When you know what you've got. So.
And Henry de Promed's taken him over here. He's taken Rachel Blackmore to ride him.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have been riding Bob Ollinger in Ireland, etc., etc. So I think he's going to take the world of beating. If he brings anything like his Cheltenham Gold Cup and Savills Chase form to the table, he will just be stalking them and hopefully pounce in the latter stages.
Okay, à plus tard than that for John. TC, or TPC.
Yeah, exactly. Top Cat used to be my nickname because of that.
There you go. Well, it's not going to be in here.
Thank God for that. Definitely Desoy is my nap.
Of course.
In the 96.5 Chase, as I mentioned, I think he's a great bet. Elsewhere, I genuinely think this is a day for favourite backers. Like, I know they're small fields, and that would tend to lean towards favourite backers, although obviously the old adage of backing the outside of 3, for example. But I genuinely think those towards the head of the market in each of the 7 races that we're covering have great chances. There are a couple I will be taking on, but I like right place, right time at Haydock as well for Emmett Mullins. He's towards the head of the market, Bars as well. So we'll see how we go on, but I do think the favourites will have a good day. Okay.
And Ryan, what's out of the 7 races, which one are you most confident playing?
Bats Rock in this Betfair Exchange Stayers Hurdle at 225 at Haydock. For me, Ross, the win his win the last day has been boosted even further by Tommy's Oscar Bolton up in Haydock earlier on. The second Tees Components lad has won since 2. He's only a 5-year-old. He's untried at the trip, but over 2.5 miles, he's looked at tourist there. So I'm hoping the trip might bring out a little bit more improvement. He's a lovely race and weight in 10 stone 7, and in around 7 to 1, I think he's probably the best value on the card at Haydock.
Okay, lovely stuff. Well, let's go to Haydock for the opener then. Just the 4 runners for this graduation chase to kick us off. And Paul Nicholls loves running one in this race. Every time he has run in this race, he finished first or second. So he knows what it takes to win this contest. And he sent Brave Man's Game here, who's currently 1.73 to back on the exchange. We've got Itchy Feet as well, who certainly knows how to run on to second, that's for sure. He's 4.3 to back. Pay the Piper for Anne Hamilton, who, as we just said, has already had a winner with Tommy's Oscar, is 6.2, and Alnadam, the outsider of the lot, is 26 to back for the Skelton team. Ryan, come to you first with your play, so we can get it try and get it matched on the exchange. How are you playing this opener?
Yeah, so Brave Man's Game is obviously making his second start over fences. He was thrown in at the deep end on debut over fences at Newton Abbott by Paul Nicholls, and it's something similar now, and it's actually something I'm happy to see. And UK horses taking on better horses early on in the season, and it might stand for him. I hope it does come Cheltenham. When you see Bob Ollinger winning his beginner's chase, he was beating mid-140s and some 150 horses when doing so. So I'm glad he hasn't taken the softy approach to Brave Man's Game, but at around 1.73, 8 to 11, he's not for me, given he's up against a Grade 1 winner in Itchy Feet, who's rated 155. But I think Pay the Piper is a real improver for Anne Hamilton, who's already had a winner on the card. He was second the last day in a really good renewal of the Colin Parker at Carlisle. Only got ran down by Filler on the Roof, and he's obviously a very good horse on his day. Colin Tizard's horse have been absolutely flying this season too, so he bounced back to form that day. They were about 8 lengths clear of Espoir de Rome in third that day. He's rated 160. Now, he hasn't ran up to 160 on that occasion, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have £50 on Pay the Piper in the 2-place market. So if you click into the place market, he's around 11 to 10 at the moment. And I think, as I said, he's an improving horse. He's only a 6-year-old. Brayman's Game is too short for me to back at that price. That was only second start over fences. And I think Itchy Feet might be trying to concentrate on Braveman's Game, and Danny McMenamin might be able to pick up the pieces and finish second in the race. He may well win it, but I think the safest play is to have 50 quid on the place, only betting at 11 to 10.
Okay, lovely stuff. Straight bats then with Pay the Piper to hit the first two. That's for sure for Anne Hamilton and Danny McMenamin. I'll come to you first, John. I guess first things, well, a couple of questions. Starting off with how are you playing this? And the second question is, how good could Braveman's Game be if, of course, he goes on to win this race?
He was extremely good at Newton Abbott, and obviously the form has worked out extremely well with Fusil Raffles and what he did, obviously slightly fortunately at Wetherby subsequently. Braveman's Game's jumping that day was absolutely terrific, for a horse with so little experience over fences. Obviously he's got the point-to-point form going back a little bit further. I think if you're going to play this race, having talked about not being an in-running punter, I think this is probably a good race to be an in-running punter, in the sense if Braveman's Game goes to the front and is getting a relatively easy time of things on the lead, jumped a couple of fences well, I think you're probably better off taking sort of 1.45, 1.5, something like that after a couple of fences than taking it now. Because if he is maybe, there are no horses that are absolute hold-up horses here, so there might be, they might decide one or two they're thinking we don't want to be giving this Braveman's Game too much of an easy lead. So I think you just want to maybe hang fire a little bit. The reason I don't want to play this from a sort of SP point of view is because I don't think there should be the discrepancy between Braveman's Game and Itchy Feet. I know Itchy Feet is not the most prolific of winners, but that form at Aintree is really very, very high class. He's not as good a jumper of fences from what we've seen so far as Braveman's Game, but he is experienced and battle-hardened in some pretty good steeplechases, and that old Roan Chase is working out very well, isn't it, with Midnight Shadow. So I would... If Braveman's Game can dictate a fairly sort of even gallop and he's jumping the fences like he did at Newton Abbott, albeit these are tougher fences, then yeah, he'd probably get involved then. But if you're having a bet now, I might be quite tempted to threes Itchy Feet instead of the 4 to 6 Braveman's Game.
Okay. Tom Collins, your opinion on this race? You were saying it might be a favourite backer's day.
Yeah, I think they'll get off to a good start here with Braveman's Game. Paul Nicholls won this race 7 times in the last 10 years with the likes of Clanders Obo, Politolog, Master Tommy Tucker. Basically runs all of his leading novice chasers, graduation chasers, in this kind of race. The Newton Abbott form, as John's touched on already, has been boosted by Fusil Raffles winning the Charlie Hall, albeit fortunately. I just think he's going to dictate and win this race. But I can see Ryan's view on Pay the Piper as well. I think he's the most likely danger, the biggest danger to Braveman's Game. But I think the favourite will get it done.
Jumps beautifully, Pay the Piper. He was that horse who had to sort of run round after his only rival fell at the first at Wetherby. Danny McMenamin must have been thinking, what do I do here? Do I sort of get him sort of conservative just to pop over at every fence, or do I actually sort of school him to try and jump the fences as you'd want him to do under normal race conditions? And I suppose that could have gone wrong, but he jumped them all really really well at Wetherby, and then his run at Carlisle was really good as well. Fiddler on the Roof is a very progressive horse, and to get as close to him as he did was a really good effort. So.
Yeah, okay, and I was saying Anne Hamilton's already had a winner. They are an incredibly underrated yard. They don't have many bullets to fire, but they place them incredibly well, and they have a fantastic strike rate over fences as well. I mean, they've had a hurdle winner over this afternoon, but 16 from 50 over fences, 32% strike rate, a £41.75 level stake profit. So they certainly know what they're doing. But surprisingly, as they jump off at Haydock, Itchy Feet is laying it up to Braveman's Game as they jump off. Itchy Feet, who is the perennial running on from the back for a place animal, is putting it up to the favourite here. But Braveman's Game just going on from Itchy Feet. Pay the Piper and Al Nadam are the early positions there. And Braveman's Game at a fairly steady gallop took off a little. He's a little bit. Again, he's a little bit fresh out in front. Braveman's Game. Tom, but it's a tough one with these novice chases. We've seen a lot of them. We've seen Bob Ollinger, of course, the My Drogo race, which you talked a lot about. These small fields where they're not going a championship gallop, and horses who've been, the last time the horses were in the spring, completely different experience here. So it does provide a little bit of a different test for these top-class horses.
Yeah, certainly. But Brave Man's Games, he really helps Harry Cobden in this situation because he just likes to bowl along in front, look at him with his ears pricked. And his jumping technique, albeit he's very good over his fences, is interesting because he tends to land really heavy on his front legs. He's economical, but his technique isn't 10 out of 10. However, Itchy Feet's is far worse than Brave Man's Game. So that has allowed him to get the length advantage at this stage. Look, they're going a slow gallop. I just want to be out in front, and Harry Cobden is in the prime position on the fav.
Yeah, he did take off a little bit early at the first couple of fences there, but he's barely touched a twig so far, Brave Man's Game. And although Itchy Feet is right next to him, they're not going a really breakneck gallop here at all, and that's a lovely leap there at the first in the home straight. And the two lesser lights are already getting a little bit detached.
Brave Man's Game then. John said that he would rather back Brave Man's Game if he settles out into a lead at sort of 1.5, and that's kind of what we've got. No surprise to see him shorten up here, Ryan.
No, he's into just short of 2-1 now, but nearly 4-9, Ross. I can see what Tom's saying about his technique, but he's just the type of horse that you get the impression he knows what he's doing, and you can't really see him falling. He might be a little big at the odd fence, but he's just the type of horse that knows how to get from A to B. He might be flashy at some fences, but he's putting in a really good round of jumping so far. And my place only bet on Pay the Piper, although he's a little bit adrift from Itchy Feet. I'm actually glad to see Itchy Feet challenge Brave Man's Game, and I'm hoping he might burn himself out late on and Pay the Piper can pick up the piece in a second.
Yeah, if you've backed a horse to finish second or third in this kind of race, Ryan, that's exactly what you want to see. He's clearly, he's been ridden for the place, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, Ross, he's probably a better horse being ridden further back. But in a 4-runner race, how far back can you ride him, especially when you're second favourite? And Gavin Sheehan probably thinks he's only one horse to beat. So they've tightened up a little bit, and there's only about 5-6 lengths covering them. And he's now 2-5 Brave Man's Game, so he's getting shorter all the time.
Okay, Brave Man's Game then from Itchy Feet, Pay the Piper, and Al Nadam. No surprise, given the number of runners and the speed they're going. That in theory they are all still in the mix here. But Brave Man's Game. That'd be interesting. That jumping technique, how it is tested in a bigger field at a faster pace.
He doesn't arch his back, does he, over a fence? But he does jump kind of naturally. You get the impression that Harry Cobden's not having to ask him to do much. He's doing it all naturally. And that's great to see. Noticeable, they suddenly closed up there. There was about 10, 12 lengths between them as they came past the winning post. But as they set out on the back straight, they suddenly got closer. Obviously, Cobden's just given the leader a bit of a breather there to crack on again. But Itchy Feet, a sensible tactical ride, really, because you don't want to let this horse in front get too much of a lead on you. But then again, if you overdo that, you might end up knackering your own chance. So it's a tricky little one tricky tightrope to walk. But I think if I was a Brave Man's Game backer now, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Itchy Feet in second. I mean, the thing that your brain always says for a horse like Itchy Feet that runs on so strongly, Tom, is you think, well, if they're that close and they finish that strongly, then he's got to have a chance, but it never necessarily works out that way. But interesting that we are now being treated to a bit of a challenge here. Gavin Sheehan is saying to Harry Cobden, come on then, let's see what you've got if I rustle you up down the home straight. Yeah,
and Brave Man's Game really quickened off that bend. He's stolen a length there. And the thing about Itchy Feet is, yes, he stays really well, but he doesn't jump, so he loses so much momentum. We'll see at this fence now, a crucial stage of the race. He just switches in behind Brave Man's Game. He's still travelling really well.
Yeah, Brave Man's Game and Itchy Feet, big get back to Pay the Piper and Al Nadam. Brave Man's Game just said he's into that one. We'll get over it absolutely fine. Itchy Feet is off the bridle a little bit, gets a crack at the whip, but Brave Man's Game is very much travelling within himself at a very reasonable pace still. Pay the Piper and Al Nadam playing far at third and fourth at the moment. It's Brave Man's Game, then lovely leap again. He's got better as the race has gone on. Ryan is ignoring the winner, desperately looking for Pay the Piper to run on into second place. Currently, it's still held by Itchy Feet, but it is Brave Man's Game, Itchy Feet, Pay the Piper and Al Nadam. Brave Man's Game again. Lovely stuff there. Barely gone through the gears. Itchy Feet is struggling back in second place. Pay the Piper is grinding away to try and get down to second place behind Itchy Feet, but it is Brave Man's Game over the last. Another lovely leap. Itchy Feet, Pay the Piper now running on and hopefully going to get that second place, but Brave Man's Game at a hat canter has won this graduation chase in very impressive fashion. He got better as he went further. His jumping got better, and he's going to have tougher tasks to come, but 2 from 2 over fences now, Tom, and it's all you can ask.
Yeah, he's a really good horse, isn't he? He showed that he was a Grade 1 winner over hurdles, and he's always promised to be a better chaser than he was a hurdler, and now he's delivering on that promise. Yes, it probably wasn't the strongest race, and it'll be interesting to see how he does at the likes of Cheltenham and whatnot, where it's stiffer jumping tests, that tricky fence at Cheltenham, the way he's coming down the hill as well, and the way he doesn't arch his back and lands on his front, he may crumple on landing. That's my one doubt going towards Cheltenham, but take nothing away from the performance today. He was very impressive, never got out of third gear.
Yeah, Brave Man's Game then wins it, beats Itchy Feet and Pay the Piper. Just outclassed a little bit. It looked for a second, Ryan, like he was going to come into to second place, but I can't imagine a particularly dramatic market there as everything pretty much went to plan.
Yeah, exactly. Brave Man's Game's price generally shortened all the way throughout. Although Itchy Feet was matched at 9-4 when he made that move before turning in Gavin Sheehan to hit the front. But just compare his jumping in comparison, Brave Man's Game in comparison to Bob Olinger, I'd actually prefer Brave Man's Game. Obviously, that was only a second start. Bob Ollinger's had the one, but Bob Olinger can be a little bit skew-if in the air and he kind of nearly crumpled on landing 3 out at Gorn. Whereas Brave Man's Game got tight to the third last there and just put himself right. Early on in his races, he seemed to take a bit of a chance. He goes high at them, but I think when the race gets progressive, I think he gets a bit lower, and that's a good thing to see. That as the race goes on, he gets a little bit better, in my opinion, and he gets much quicker over his fences. He's going to need that, obviously, when he steps up in grade. But going into a Grade 1 novice, which I'd imagine he'll win the next start, Paul Nicholls would be delighted to get them 2 wins under his belt. And he's beat proper horses as well, 155 rated Itchy Feet and the Charlie Hall winner through the raffle. So his form is going to have a really good look to going into them Grade 1 novice.
Brave Man's Game then beats Itchy Feet, Pay the Piper, and Alan Adam pretty much coming home in market order. I mean, we haven't learned much more about Brave Man's Game than we knew before. Albeit, I mean, I agree with Ryan in a sense that Bob Olinger, even my Jogo the other day, there was a couple of sort of not necessarily the smoothest, straightest jumps. And Brave Man's Game, every single one, he was straight as a die.
Yeah, he's like Tom was saying, he's a kind of natural jump, if you see what I mean. He doesn't make the right shape of the fence you necessarily want, but he does it without having to be persuaded too much by his rider. It was a nice performance. I mean, what race will they go for at the Cheltenham Festival? Probably the 2.5 miler, won't they? But then he could well bump into Bob Olinger, who he bumped into last year.
I mean, I hope he does.
A great match,
Yes, I really hope he does. But of course, owner and trainer might think differently. But we'll move on with Brave Man's Game laying down the challenge then to the Irish novices in pretty impressive fashion. Can he go on to Grade 1 glory in the spring? Let us know in the chat as we move on to Ascot for the 205. The Chanel Farmer 1965 Chase is the full title for you. A Grade 2 contest with 6 of them lining up, and hopefully this will be a little bit more competitive than that last contest, albeit the way that Ascot was riding yesterday, it wouldn't be a huge surprise to see whatever makes the running win again. Defi DeSille then is favourite here, 3.9 to back, Lost in Translation 4.7. Dashel Drasher has drifted out to 5.6. Bit of money for Master Tommy Tucker into 5.4. Pistol Whipped is 9, and Benny's King is out to 16.5 here. So just the 7 runners here, Ryan. But how are we playing this again? We'll get the bet on for you for this at 1965 Chase. Plenty of horses having to kind of rekindle their careers, but a couple of progressive types who had a good season. So a nice mix. What are you backing?
Yeah, I like Lost in Translation in this. He's not my strongest fancy today, but I just think, obviously Tom's a fan of Defi side. In my opinion, it's a match between the two, because if one of the two come back to what they showed a couple of seasons ago, I think they'll be much too good in receipt of weight from the likes of Massive Tommy Tucker and Dashel Drasher. It's probably a slight negative that Matt Griffith was unable, obviously, to ride Dashel Drasher, given he's ridden him and his most of career victories to date. But I think Lost in Translation, his yard is flying, 22% strike rate the last fortnight, and that includes 7 seconds as well. So they're going really well at the moment. He's off the back of a wind up, and at around 4.7, which he is at the moment, I think we'll go in and we'll put a £50 stake win on him. If you're in the couple Defi Destroy and Lost in Translation, I think that would be a bad play either, because I do think that one of the two will come back to what they showed a couple of seasons ago and blitz the rest of them. I can't see, like with Dashel Drasher and Master Tommy Tucker, having to give weight away to the two. I don't think they'll be able to. I'm sure one of the two will bounce back to form. And for me, I'm just hoping it's Lost in Translation.
Okay, Lost in Translation then for Ryan. I'm going to ignore all the class here and go for this. It's a good ground, a front runner's track, and some very good speed figures for Pistol Whipped as a 7-year-old on good ground at front runner's track. So I think I think this is potentially prime for an upset if he can get into a nice position, because there are some poor careers last year to try and get over for Lost in Translation and Defi de Seal. But you are very much with the favourite, Tom.
Yeah, I really like Defi de Seal. I think this is the perfect race for him as well. Philip Hobbs has obviously planned this out very nicely. You've got a load of horses in here that have been disappointing, but also have shown that they've got the level of class to compete at the top, at Grade 1 company. Lost in Translation, I completely respect him. I used to be a huge fan of him. He just can't breathe. I know he's had a wind up, but it's his third one. It hasn't worked on his 2 previous tries. If it works this time, then maybe he'll win this race and bounce right back. Dashel Drasher, I think what Ryan said's very key here, that Matt Griffiths unfortunately can't take the ride. They've got such a good relationship, the jockey and the horse. And as much as I like Rex Dingle, I don't think they're going to get on as well as Matt and Dashel Drasher. And Master Tommy Tucker's just been really disappointing. I see your point about Pistol Whip, but there's a lot of pace in the race. I just think it's all going to set up for Defi de Soy. He was a phenomenal juvenile hurdler, phenomenal novice chaser. Yes, last season he didn't hit the heights, but Philip Hobbs, as I mentioned already, the team were in a bad spell. They're backfiring now. This is going to be the race for Defi de Soy, hopefully, to bounce back.
Okay, Defi de Soy then a nice talk up there by Tom Collins is currently 4-2 back on the exchange. John, interesting little race this. Are you with the any old favourites for you?
No, I'm going to go small bet Master Tommy Tucker. He ran very well in the Ascot Chase back in February. There's not much between him and Dashel Drasher. Charted a rather wide course the whole way around on that occasion. Now, sometimes at Ascot, the rail's not where you necessarily want to be, and so 2, 3, 4 horses wide is the place to be. He jumped very well on that occasion. He got a bit of a reputation as not being a brilliant jumper early on in his career. I think that was a little bit unfair. He was a bit unlucky 1 or 2 of the times he tipped up. Defi de Soy, if he brings his Clarence House chase from a couple of years ago form, he wins this, no doubt about it. Lost in Translation is interesting as well, because you think how well he's run in 2 Betfair chases at Haydock. He's won one, finished second in another. Why they decided to come here with him instead of going back to Haydock, which would have seemed the obvious thing to do. So they're both very interesting. The tactical point he made about Pistol Whipped is interesting too. He jumped beautifully out in front of the Toxter over the summer. It was a really nice performance. He's got to improve a bit more on that to be in this company, or to mix it in this company. But he will probably push Dashel Drasher along. He will test the horses that are coming back, Lost in Translations and Defi de Soy. And I think Master Tommy Tucker, Sam Twiston-Davies will probably just sit off that gallop that is being generated, and I think he'll go quite well. It's one of those races when you've got a couple of horses like this at the top of the market. Ideally, as an each way thief, you'd have 8 runners, and you'd find something, the sort of 4, 5, 6 to 1 to then go into a nice each way bet where you've got 3 places on your side. But I think Master Tommy Tucker will be there or thereabouts at the finish. I think he's a reasonable bet at those prices.
Okay, Master Tommy Tucker then pretty much, it just is that kind of race, isn't it, where everyone will undoubtedly have a different opinion. Paul Bakewell's backed Defi de Seal to beat Lost in Translation in a match bet. Andy Sims says, I think they all have to beat Dashel Drasher, which, to be fair, they kind of do on the way end of the season, but he has been pulled out 3 times on good to soft or fast to ground, so it is very key, the conditions here today. Frizzy Red said Defi should bounce back for this. Like I said, quite a few opinions. The only one we haven't really mentioned is Benny's King. He's got a fantastic record on his second start. He always improves to that run. But he's a 10-year-old. He's another one who loves the track, but he also loves soft ground.
Ascot's a real specialist track.
It is.
You could have a pretty decent punting year just backing horses that run well at Ascot over the National Hunt season.
And the flat as well. You just
you
ignore everything else.
You would not be in the workhouse at all, as my late father used to say. So yeah, but it's an interesting race even now, as well as they're going towards the tape. There seems like one or two want to go on. Benny's King was ridden very, very a long way off the pace in that handicap chase in October. Interesting that they seem to be quite keen to go forward with him there. So if he pressurises Dashel Drasher and Pistol Whipped, you're getting a really good gallop carved out here. So.
Yeah, but like you said though, the thing with Ascot, sometimes you think, God, they're going a good gallop here, but still the closers don't get involved. Mm-hmm. Maybe over the minimum trip, but I'm thinking of horses like First Flow, for example, last year, and the likes of the Kim Bailey horse, who's got a good record here as well, who. The 3-miler mixes fences and hurdles.
Oh, Vindication.
Vindication, yes.
Anyway, they're off.
They are off, and they're all trying to make a run, apart
go.
from Defi de Sil. They all come to the first, and everything gets over it pretty nicely. But it is Master Tommy Tucker on the inside, Dashel Drasher following him, lost in translation in between. Pistol Whipped is 4 wide currently. Then Benny's King, who's struggling to keep up already at this early stage. And Defi de Sil has been switched off at the back. So they're certainly going significantly quicker than we saw with Brave Man's Game over at Haydock, that's for sure. And they're just settling down into those early positions. But interesting to see, Ryan, that the favourite in the green and gold has been switched off at the back, off what on paper looked like a strong pace. And in the race right now is a pretty solid gallop. How has the market reacted to those first 2 fences as they approach the third?
Yeah, Master Tommy Tucker is actually favoured in running at the moment at around 11-4. He's obviously in front. Definitely decides in last, and he's second favourite. So I don't think punters can make up their mind what the part of the track they want to be on. There's no hiding place anyway, that's for sure. Master Tommy Tucker's got a really good gallop in front. I'd say Tom is happy enough though on Defi de Sil out the back. He'll obviously try and come with his trademark late finish, but at the moment they all seem to be jumping well enough in themselves. But Master Tommy Tucker has got a really good gallop, and as I said, no hiding place, and he's favoured now at 5-2.
Yeah, although admittedly, Tom, they went really quick early. Now they've settled down, and actually, Master Tommy Tucker slowed it down. I always think, if you're going sub 30 miles an hour in front, you've got, in theory, the race under control, haven't you?
Yeah, interestingly, as you mentioned, they've slowed it right down, but the field is still strung out. They went very hard in the first few strides just to get that position. Pistol Whip didn't get the position that Nicola Boinville would have wanted. Dashel Drasher arguably is in the position Rex Dingle want, but I think he's best when he's out in front. He can jump left when he gets tired as well, so without having a horse on his outside could be a negative. But yeah, I'm very happy with where Defi is, providing he keeps jumping well. He's in the prime position just to pick up the pieces. Yeah,
you've got Defi and, of course, Lost in Translation, who both had wind ups and are often strong travellers. The proof is going to be in the pudding up the home straight.
It will be, yes. Interesting. My speed map is already out the window, which is not for the first time, for those of you who will especially follow the Hong Kong show on Sky Sports Racing. But yeah, I mean, Master Tommy Tucker, he's jumping very nicely out in front. I'd rather he was just behind Dashel Drasher, reprising his run from the Ascot Chase back in February. Lost in Translation's got a lovely posse there in third, just 2 or 3 lengths behind the leading duo. And he looks to be racing very nicely at the moment. Pistol Whip, maybe he's just not good enough to lead this sort of field, and he's just going back through the field at the moment. Benny's King, not as prominent as I thought he would be, and Defi de Sil, the moment is popping over them nicely, and probably if you're a Defi de Sil fan, as Tom has just articulated, you're very happy with how things are going.
Okay, Master Tommy Tucker then is still out in front from Dashel Drasher. Lost in Translation, Defi de Sil. Benny's King has hated every second of this race. And Pistol Whipped also has resented not being able to get to the front here. But suddenly, Master Tommy Tucker has been taken on by Dashel Drasher. And also, Brendan Powell, Lost in Translation, is not letting these two get too far away. Of course, the difference with a few of these, Defi spent last season running over 2 miles. Lost in Translation is a thorough stayer. So be interested to see what Brendan Powell thinks. Is he going to... It wouldn't be the worst idea to go, right, I am going to kick on early and try and put this race to bed with the stamina, but whether he can actually do that or not.
Well, it's interesting, and obviously Tom has shown or told us about all the various wind operations that poor old Lost in Translation has had to have. So yes, ideally and logically be thinking, you'd probably want to try and grab the initiative, certainly as vis-a-vis Defi de Sil, but it'd be a danger for Brendan Powell to be thinking too much about Defi de Sil and not thinking about other horses in the race. And the leader's still going well. They've gone a solid gallop here, but they haven't gone overly quick. And the leading duo at the moment still relatively comfortable out in front.
Yeah, and like I said, they are hedging the bets a bit. Ryan, is that still happening? They wanted to back the in-running punters wanted to back the front runner, and the horse held up last.
Yeah, exactly. Defi de Sil is getting a beautiful run into the race, and he's still favoured. Although he's a bit slow at that fence, and Lost in Translation has switched out wide. But Master Tommy Tucker has been given a smart enough ride by Sam Davis. As you said, he went quick early and then slowed it up to try and get him into the best position. But Defi's closing up again, and it's all the play for turning into the home straight.
It is indeed. Master Tommy Tucker, Dashel Drasher, Lost in Translation, not a great jump there. Defi now being asked the question. But again, yesterday, everything that was on the speed, even though they were looking under pressure, was the best place to be, that's for sure. And Master Tommy Tucker now going through the gears. But it's Dashel Drasher, Lost in Translation, Defi de Sil. They've all got a chance here. Who would you rather be on, Tom?
I think Master Tommy Tucker, but we're interested to see how Lost in Translation finishes his race. He's coming on the outside, looking the main danger here. Just jump in. Good jump from the first 2. Dashel Drasher in close. Defi's flattened out Very interesting to see what happens here. Lost in Translation finishes his race or not. Has the wind up worked?
I mean, in theory, he should outstay Master Tommy Tucker, shouldn't he? With Dashel Brasher back in third, Defi de Surly's heavily beaten. Lost in Translation, then coming up looking for a good jump. He takes it a little bit early, but it's a good one. Master Tommy Tucker just goes through the top. He looks like a tired horse. Sam Twiston Davies is riding him out for second, just hoping that maybe that wind might catch out Lost in Translation. But a third time's a charm for the wind up for Lost in Translation, who very much not necessarily bounces back to his best, but certainly significantly better than we've seen for quite a couple of seasons. And Lost in Translation takes that race from Master Tommy Tucker, and there was a long gap back to Dashel Drasher back in third. But I thought that was a really smart ride by Brendan Powell.
Yeah.
Not his first this season. He's riding on a bit of a high at the moment. We've had Fiddler on the Roof bounce back. We've had Eldorado Allen bounce back for the yard. So the Tizard Chasers are back in the game.
Certainly are, and you're right. He was off the bridle quite a long way out, Lost in Translation, but you knew that if he was anything like the Lost in Translation of old, getting to the line would not be a problem. Master Tommy Tucker was given a lovely ride by Sam Twiston Davies. He knew the tactics better than I did. That's almost goes without saying. And he's almost managed to nick the race from the front, but in the end, he's just been beaten by a more thorough stayer. And as I said before, a good move from the stable. They've eschewed the chance of going to Haydock, and they've come here instead, and it's worked out very nicely for them.
It has indeed. Lost in Translation then wins SP of 4-1, beats Master Tommy Tucker at 7-2. SP back in second place. Ryan, we'll come over to you for the story of the race, because as they started to approach the final bend, there's 4 horses in it in theory, but there wasn't too much between Master Tommy Tucker, Lost in Translation, Dashel Drasher. Tell us any surprising lows or surprising highs?
I thought Master Tommy Tucker and Defi de Surly might have hit short. They both hit 6-4 in running. Dashel Drasher hit it short as 2-1. But as you mentioned, it was a really good ride by Brendan Powell. He's a man riding with a lot of confidence at the moment. He let the top Master Tommy Tucker and Dashel Drasher kind of take each other on without letting them too far out of his sights. Tom O'Brien done nothing wrong on Defi de Surly. He kind of got as close as he'd like before turning in. Through it. So it was a really good ride by Brendan Powell, and it's good to see Lost in Translation back in the winning circle.
Yeah, Lost in Translation then, and a winning bet for you as well, Ryan. So nice darts there with that one. There's nothing worse, Tom, than coming to someone saying you really fancied this horse and they've run a poor race. But I mean, he just looked lifeless there, Defi, in the finish.
Yeah, he travelled really well, and he touched, I don't know, I think it was 2.5 on the exchanges in running. But he just seemed to flatten out. I don't know whether he needed the run. Potentially that's the case, but he was beating a mile at the finish. Great to see Lost in Translation bounce back, as I mentioned. Used to be a big fan of this horse before his issues. And hopefully this wind up that he's just had will continue his progression this year, rather than a good reappearance run and then he starts disappointing again. Master Tommy Tucker, I think, was given a great ride. But I'm very disappointed about Defi de Surly. That was a poor effort.
Yeah, the problem is he's starting to look tripless. If he wasn't quite quick enough at the back end of last season for 2 miles, and he gets outstayed over this trip, they're going to struggle to find his ideal conditions. But the wind up's one thing, but I mean the other thing is it's quite they had a pretty turbulent year, didn't they? The Tizards. So I imagine they had bigger fish to fry, real life stuff affecting the stable, and clearly they have regrouped, and it's making a difference.
Well, he's a lovely horse. I mean, he nearly won a Cheltenham Gold Cup, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it was a rather funny Cheltenham Gold Cup in the way the race was run as well. Album photo just scraping over the line, but Lost in Translation was staying on really well in a race that probably wasn't really run to suit him. So it's great to have him back. It's just we're watching the replay now. It's here you'd be thinking, if you were on Master Tommy Tucker, you'd be pretty confident. I was relatively confident that he got most of them at it, and he finds the line pretty well over 2.5 miles at Ascot as well. But here, Lost in Translation, if you're a Master Tommy Tucker fan and you suddenly see Lost in Translation looming up and finding plenty for the urgings in the saddle, and then he brings out a couple of really good leaps when he requires them. He's just on his day, a high quality, very high quality staying chaser, and he's shown it today. So well done to all concerned. And Fiddler on the Roof, is he going to run next week in the Ladbrokes Trophy? I
think he's entered. Yeah. I mean, it's a good form boost, but I don't know. These Tizard horses, they showed a lot early in their career, and then I've kind of gone off them, and now I can't seem to get back on that train. Fiddler on the Roof, Lost in Translation are 2 of them. But maybe it's my fault, and I need to start backing these Tizard horses again.
Well, it's hard, isn't it? Because it's definitely hard with high-profile horses, especially from a yard where the Tizard team do the way they campaign their horses gives you I don't know, it's easy to latch onto them and kind of fall in love with them a bit, and it's hard to separate emotion from analysis, isn't it? But lost in translation and 4-1. Masatomi took a 7-2. I wonder if we'll see the winner perhaps in the Ryanair maybe come the spring because it was already proven that the Gold Cup might well be a step too far. But the Tizard bandwagon rolls on. We are back to Haydock in a second. We've got a Stayers Handicap Hurdle. We've also got the Betfair Chase coming up a little bit later on. So it's a good afternoon at Haydock, and it's a good afternoon to Barry Orr, who's in his rightful place back on course. In theory. In theory,
he's on
Barry
course,
Orr.
he just can't hear you.
He is on course. We just can't hear Barry. We'll ring him back. I mean, that's the downside of being on course is you can never get signal. It's an absolute nightmare. But I can assure you that Barry Orr is on course. Hi
guys.
Oh, there we go. We've got him. Barry, hello. Oh, we've lost you again.
Here, Ross. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. We're obviously having a few signal problems, but that's pretty much what happens at the races, isn't it? How's it looking at Haydock? Nice to be regularly back on track.
Yeah, it's great, and we've just seen Brave Man's Game putting itchy feet to the sword. A lot of display of jumping. He's really a novice going in the right direction, and anti-post reaction to him. Obviously, it looks like that could be the festival chase for him. He's 5 from 7, and he's also 8 from 10 for the Marsh. So. Yeah, he's been the highlight so far, but obviously the real highlight is at 3 o'clock, the Betfair Chase. Applautard, 5-4 favourite to give Ireland the first win in the race. Bristol the Mike, 3-1. 7 waiting patiently. 15-2 Imperial Aura now. And it's 8-1 bar, 8 Royal Guy, 22 bar them. But another race, Betfair Sportsbook holding the 3 places, the each way punters, despite there only being 7 runners. And then obviously in the 225 here coming up now, it's our money back special race. You fail to finish in the first 4, you get your cash back up to a tenner on the Betfair Sportsbook. Right place, right time. Looks like he's going to go off favourite now for Emmett Mullins. Smacks on the shunter. Ran this time last year for the same connections. Harry Kimber looks like he's claiming a valuable 7 off this. Despite £17 difference between its Irish mark and its UK mark, he could make light work of these. If you go back to his run, which was a really decent run behind the bosses at Oscar in Thurles when he was giving them £3 that day, that really marks him out. And no doubt it's a trainer uplift, Emmett Mullins and Kevin O'Donnell.
Okay, and Barry, are you playing paddock judge for as well here for at Haydock? Have you seen these walking around?
I certainly have. Yeah, they all look really, really well on themselves. Flight Deck looks a picture. He's currently a 7-1 chance, and the horse I fancy in it to run well looks great. Gladiator Alan for Chester Williams and Jane Williams. If he can just harness that horse and not get a rush of blood to the head, I think it's got a big chance, but he just needs to take his time on him and creep into the race.
Okay, and just remind us of the offer, Barry. Money back as a free bet if your horse fails to finish in the 4, is that right?
In this race, you have your horse fails to finish in the first 4, it's money back as a free bet up to a tenner. Check out the T's and C's on the Betfair Sportsbook, but it's a great concession, Ross, as you know.
Lovely stuff. Well, that's everything covered then, Barry. Good luck with that. Do you have a nap of the day for you?
My nap of the day runs at the last, actually. If you have patience to wait for it, it's not on ITV, it's not on Racing Post Live, but in 3:35 Empire Steel for Sandy Thompson and Ryan Manny. It really runs well after a break. And I think he's going to take a lot of beating in a race that looks tricky enough, but I'm opposing the favourite Strictly Dancer in it.
Okay, lovely stuff. Well, Barry, we'll speak to you before the big one, and enjoy the atmosphere and enjoy this race.
Thanks, Ross.
There we go, Barry Orr live from Haydock there with the Betfair Exchange Stayers Handicap Hurdle, our next live betting event, and there is money again for the Emmett Mullins trained right place, right time. Again, a yard who've certainly garnered a bit of a reputation for landing a touch. 4.3 now to back. Orby's Legend in at 6.6, 8.6 Base Rock, 9.2 is Flight Deck and 11's Bar. This race, of course, has a tendency, Ryan, to potentially throw up a future Stayers Hurdle contender, the likes of your Sam Spinners and your Dynasts, Paisley Park, Grand Cru. Some really nice horses have won this and gone on to graded glory. Is there a top-class horse up your sleeve here for this contest?
Yeah, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I really like Bass Rock in this, Ross. The form has been franked big time from his win at Carlisle on seasonal debut with T's Components lad and Tommy's Oscar coming out and winning. He's running off a mark of 130, which has him carrying 10 stone 7, which is a lovely weight in a race of this nature. Ryan Manny is fresh off the back of a big race win last week as well. And to me, at around 8.6, I think he's a big price in comparison to right place, right time now. I can't have him at all. I think it's worth noting that when the shunter, who obviously people are comparing the horse to similar connections, and they bought it off a small yard, when he went to the Great Wood Hurdle off a similar weight, Robbie Power took the ride on that occasion. They put Harry Kimber up now, taking £7 off, and I think that's probably because they don't think they've enough in hand that they need to win a race of this nature. It's obviously a lot of prize money on offer here. So at around 3-1, I would not be back in the right place, right time. And the betting for me in the race, I'm going to have 25 win on backdrop in the win market, and I'm going to have 25 in the place market as well, 4 places. I think that's the way to go in the race. And just to mention as well, on the sportsbook and the exchange, we have an offer that if you bet up to £10 or euro on the race and your selection finishes outside the first 4, you'll get your money back up to that £10 as a free bet. So that's a good initiative for punters if they want to have a win bet or an each-way bet in the race, and get their win stake back up to £10.
Okay, there we go, and that's Bassrock then for Ryan Manny and Sandy Thompson, a horse very much in progressive form. Paul Keeley was all over this horse last night as well, so some nice tips for that one. Orby's Legend, I thought had a big chance for Philip Hobbs. I thought that form was very good. Speed figure's very good. I think there's a lot more to come on this ground for Orby's Legend. Very
consistent, interesting as well. Martin Howell winning is everything. Both those horses out of the race. That just takes 1 or 2 extra bits of pace pressure away for Orby's Legend, who I think will be ridden pretty prominently. Obviously, right place, right time. He carried 12 stone in that Irish Chase the other day. He's only got 10-2 on his back here. I think they're going to try and use that discrepancy to their favour in terms of getting the horse out in front and just try to bowl along. And obviously, there should be no stamina issues whatsoever. I've gone a little bit long in this race. I think it's a really good race for going long in. And also, a couple of horses, especially Stony Mountain. He won this race 2 years ago when it was run on very similar ground to what it will be here. And if you watch the recording of the race from 2 years ago, if you didn't know he was the winner, you'd think, how the heck has he won this race? I mean, he absolutely flew. He's actually only got 2 more pounds to carry. He was 11 stone 3 that day, 11 stone 5 here. As I say, the ground is good. He ran well at Newbury the other day, and I think he's nicely primed for this. And I can't quite believe his price at 28-1. So that'll do for me each way. I think Ash Dillon will probably run a good race each way. Again, he ran well in this race last year when it was really soft, but he has got some pretty good form on decent ground. And although it's dreadfully grammatically incorrect, I do quite like Did They Leave You Out Too as well. He ran well in the Stony Mountain race at Newbury the other day. So I think it's the type of race, if you're an each way thief and you like a big price, you can get stuck into 2 or 3 of them, no bother at all.
Okay, and there's a 5 place market as well, so
yes,
Stony Mountain.
Love a bit of that.
3.6 to back to finish in the
what
5.
I normally do is if I've got like 20 quid I'm going to play with in the place market, I'll have 10 to be placed and then the other 10 in the 5 to be placed, or sometimes maybe get a 6 to be placed as well, split the old stake up. So those concessions, especially in staying handicap chases, that's an argument for a different day, not quite so much over hurdles. Staying handicap chases on soft ground in the depths of winter, those extra place markets are wonderful, wonderful value on Betfair.
Just back the horse you know is just going to keep on going.
I once had a horse beaten in the Haydock Park Grand National Trial, 100 lengths into third. And I still copped a very nice amount of money because obviously in those circumstances, you can be beaten a long way and you can still cop a few quid. Doesn't happen on the flat.
No,
People were gone home, and you were standing there looking to what finished third.
he was calling it, and they were like, "Why is he still? We're still calling this as if the
what was it called? Thatcher. I can't remember whether I was in Hong Kong at the time. I stayed up late to watch it as well, and he needed a step ladder to get over the last, but he finished third, beating 100 odd lengths.
We'll get your pick here, Tom, because they're about to jump off. That's all right.
Right place, right time was a selection. I think he's too short now to back personally. 6-1 earlier on, he is the pick. I think back to Hurdle's off a nice mark for Emmett Mullins, who we know is so shrewd with his British runners, well, all his runners, but mainly British runners. Yates Baby and the Shunter, 2 horses in these silks that have done well in Britain in recent years. However, the prices right now, Don Levant is the horse that takes my eye. He was plugging on so well at Foss last time, got given a shocker, I think, it's fair to say. He always stays really well. This race tends to suit strong stayers at the trip, and Don Levant could pick up a minor place.
Well, it's funny. I looked at this. I mean, a lot of horses who 7 of the last 10 had never won over 3 miles. There's horses who run good races, but I think it was only Chris Linian who'd actually
Yeah, but then the winners have then gone on to be successful out of the trip.
But this is the race where they almost announce,
exactly,
I am a 3-miler.
Yeah, Sam Spinner, Paisley Park are in there as well. So
yeah, whereas Don Levant hasn't won over 3 miles, has he? But he runs it. You name a decent handicap hurdle, he'll run in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's got, I think 3 of the top 6 speed figures on mine because he just keeps running in the best races. Wide open then here. We could well possibly see a Stayers Hurdle challenger emerge here, a potential 3-mile superstar, as they try and settle down and find their early positions. Who's it going to be that leads it up? Well, there's a lot of unexposed types here, but one of the most exposed in the field goes on. If the cap fits, is going to go on and lead. A horse who often is held up and doesn't find a great deal for pressure. Very different tactics today. Right place, right time could well be back in second off what looks a fairly modest gallop. Orby's Legend not too far away either. On the inside, Stony Mountain is just pulling a little bit. Bass Rock in the vanguard as well. Right out the back, Gladiator Allen is out the back. Riggs is also out the back. Stony Mountain's only got a few more behind, and Don Levant is held up dead last. So we've got a few surprises, I think, with early positions here, John.
Well, yeah, I had it if the cap fits sort of to settle midfield, and I thought that right place, right time would be more positively ridden, but he wouldn't want to be giving if the cap fits too much rain out in front. He's dropped nicely down the handicap. He's run well and won well on this weekend in the past at Ascot in the Coral Hurdle, not here. But he's an interesting runner. I didn't put him in my tips or in my bets, but I wouldn't want to be leaving him alone out in front. They aren't going a particularly strong gallop, as you say. Some of those horses at the back of the field are the ones we expected. Riggs, Don Levant, the Williams horse as well, the orange colours. So they are going to be in a situation where I think they're not going to be particularly helped by the way this race is turning out. I think those towards the head of affairs are enjoying things at the moment.
Yeah, interesting move then on if the cap fits, and especially when this was fixed brush. The 3-mile track at Haydock used to suit front runners quite strongly. I remember back in a horse called Closing Ceremony for Emma Lavelle, who made all the running at what looked a strong gallop at the time. There's a lot of horses who do keep on kicking down that home straight. So how's the market reacted to these early exchanges and the positions here, Ryan? Any big swings?
Yeah, if the cap fits, obviously Hunter's like a horse that can make the run and get into a nice rhythm. He's halved in price. He's around 12-1 now, having been just under 24-1. He went off his BSP. Interesting that Ryan Mania rides Bass Rock fairly handy, just in second there with Stony Mountain. It's his first try at the trip, so he's obviously confident that he'll get it. There's a few more quietly ridden out the back. Don Levant is one of them that Tom gave a mention to. Gladiator Allen is fairly keen, but he's shortening in the market as well. He's into 12-1. He's actually nearly going to challenge for the lead now as they come down the home straight. But they seem to be going steady enough. The favourite, right place, right time, is 4-1 currently at the moment. He's been passed by a few. I'd say Harry Kimber would have been told to maybe be a bit handier, but the race he won the last day in Ferriers was an egg and spoon chase. It was unlikely he was going to get his own way in front like he did that day in a race of this nature. And he's dropped into midfield now, so if you're on him, you'd be slightly worried that a few horses have gone by him early enough in the race, and you'd like to see him maybe travel and jump a little bit better. He's out now to 5-1, but at the moment, Bass Rock is the favourite in running at around 9-2.
Yeah, he's got a lovely position, hasn't he, in third place, as if the cap fits, and Gladiator Allen both at swap positions. Chester Williams deciding that his mount is pulling way too hard, and just to let him bowl along from if the cap fits. So I was just looking, he's making his handicap debut today. That's the kind of races he's been running in. If you were playing him running, Tom, if you were backing something to win or place here, what's the best position for you?
I think Bass Rock's going really nicely. Obviously, if the cap fits, will probably now benefit from the lead, I think, from the keen Gladiator Allen. Don Levant's also travelling well if they do get racing early, which they do sometimes do it at Haydock.
They are going through the gears here.
Exactly. And right place, right time, who was my selection. He's the one big negative. He hasn't met any hurdle on a stride so far. He's still travelling okay in mid-div, but I wouldn't be positive about his chances right now.
Yeah, he's thinking, why are these fences suddenly smaller than they were last time out? He's not done that particularly well. Riggs is now coming into it here. Of course, Harry Skelton deciding to go to Haydock today. He could have ridden a couple at Ascot, but he's gone up to Haydock for this one. Gladiator Allen still in front, then Riggs. Orby's Legend just going through the gears as well. If the cap fit's still in there, Bass Rock he's the one that's big eye catcher on the outside, isn't he?
Well, it's interesting. This Gladiator Allen was a long way off the pace, and then as they passed the stands, has suddenly made quite a significant move to go on. Maybe it's just because he's pulling too hard, but that has definitely injected a bit of pace into this race. So some of the horses that were just sort of lobbing along nicely, sort of at the front of mid-division, are now just having to work a little bit to stay in touch. Stony Mountain being one of those. But I'm relatively confident if he can stay in touch with them, he'll be staying all right in the end. Riggs has made an interesting move as well, held up early doors, and we know that he'll be wanting every inch of this trip.
Yeah, very interesting.
Don Levant, I think, are the two that are travelling best at this stage.
Yeah, well, Don Levant, of course, he has run over 3 miles. I mean, he looked at that sort of 4 or 5 places would have looked a great bet at sort of 6 to 4, but it is Bass Rock who's taken it up here. But he steadies into that one. Now Riggs throws down a challenge. Orby's Legend not too far away. Don Levant is absolutely swinging along out in 3rd or 4th position here. He hasn't won for a while, but Bass Rock is out in front. Bass Rock, another much better jump there. Riggs back in 2nd. Don Levant travelling beautifully well back in 3rd place. Isabel Williams looking to throw down the challenge, but it is Bass Rock who is still grinding away for Sandy Thompson. The Skeltons with Riggs. Behind those, Don Levant. How much is he going to find off the bridle? Bass Rock, Riggs. Don Levant is asked for a question here. Is he going to find from Bass Rock? And in between them, Riggs. It is Don Levant coming down the outside. This could be a big shout here for Tom Collins and Isabel Williams, giving it a great ride. Riggs is still battling on. It's Don Levant from Riggs who's not going down without a fight, but it's Don Levant who lands it for the Evan Williams stable. Beats Riggs into 2nd place. Bass Rock back in 3rd. And I think, was that Stony Mountain who now
I think it was. I think so.
No, I think it might have been the other horse in very similar colours.
Was it Aston Dillon?
Dr. Duffy.
Dr. Duffy, sorry.
Oh, right.
We'll wait and see.
Are you sure? We'll wait for that one.
Be nice if it was Stony Mountain, but I'm not entirely convinced that it would have been. But we'll see.
Let's have a look. Stony Mountain.
No doubt about Bass Rock in 3rd. That's even I could call that.
We want a number 4. We want a number 4. Oh, they're not showing us. They don't know we're paying 5 places here, Ryan. Come on.
Yeah, it was a good show laid on by Tom with Don Levant. Travelled really well. And it was probably, I think one of you mentioned in the studio that they probably did get racing a little bit far out. Gladiator Island didn't help that. Chester Williams was taken to the front on him, and they probably got racing a little bit far out. Riggs hit even money and running along with Bass Rock. They both faded out of it late, and the strong traveller, Don Levant, was given a really good ride by Isabel Williams. Very patient, jumped the last few well. Has gone on to win about a length or so in the end. But not too many got into it in the end. There was probably a decent gap between the 1st and the 4th. But yeah, Don Levant, a 16 to 1 winner, BSP at 21.0 on the Betfair Exchange.
Don Levant, and your winner. He'll be 9 years old in the spring, so I'm not sure necessarily whether we've seen a Thursday's hurdle challenger necessarily, but I mean he ran in that Welsh champion hurdle at Fosslas as well, which is working out very nicely behind Glory and Fortune. But the fact that he's finished 2nd in that over 2 miles. He ran a nice race in the Coral Cup last year over 2.5. He's gone and won that over 3. I mean, we were talking about maybe owning horses and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's a dream, isn't he?
He's very consistent and it's interesting because he always runs near the frame, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, but he still seems really well handicapped, which is a bit strange dilemma. I saw there was a lot of money last night for Don Levant, which was one thing that really put me on him at the last minute anyway. But maybe today was his day. I thought he'd be better suited to a stronger gallop. They didn't go that hard early, but he still cruised through the race like the best horse.
I mean, again, you've got to give credit to Isabel Williams there because she moved at the right time. She didn't overcook it.
Yeah, well, I think had the race continued as it was going round the first circuit, then that would not have suited that horse whatsoever. And indeed, Riggs was taken into a much more prominent position sort of as they came out of the back straight there. So it was probably a good ride from Harry Skelton there too. So
I was just going to show you that little result there. Who was it? It was Stony Mountain.
Oh, that's just made things a good bit better.
Stony Mountain sneaking into
marvellous scenes. Well, there we go. I don't know what price he was on the extra place market on Betfair.
Well, like I said, 5 places. He was 3.6 when we spoke, which is...
So I've got the 4 places and the 5 places, so that's... well, there we go.
You'll sleep well tonight, John.
Well, I wouldn't say sleep well. It'd be nice. I've got 1 or 2 others later on. If I could just go in 1 or 2 others as well, that'd be really good.
But the dollar signs are not showing up in the eyes.
Not quite yet. And listen, nothing should detract from Tom. Should flag it up at 16 to 1 winner. But yeah, interesting race. Don Levant's going to be one of those irritating horses at the Cheltenham Festival who'll have about 5 entries. And you'll think, what race is this horse going to run in? Yeah. And someone will ask, last year I was asked to do quite a lot of work on some of the handicaps at the Cheltenham Festival. And it's great, it's really enjoyable, but trying to work out what's going to run in a particular race. Is this horse going to go in the Coral Cup or the Pertemps final? Tricky. On that evidence, they might have a crack at the Pertemps final.
Why not? Donald,
Well, they'll have to get qualified, won't they? But
Yes.
if they find a qualifying race for him, they might get him in there.
16-1 the SP, beats Riggs 11-1. Base Rock back in third at 13-2. Stony Mountain sneaking in for fourth at 22. As we move over to Ascot, and we're back for another interesting hurdle here, the Ascot Hurdle. 5 of them run. Speaking of staying hurdle contenders, a lot of people talking Buzz up as a potential outsider or a bit of a challenger really for the Stayers Hurdle, but he's got a different challenge here to contest with. But Buzz can pretty much contend with any challenge, can't he? He's won a Cesarewitch. He's got form over 2 miles, and his best run, of course, was behind Abacadabra over 2.5. He's 2.1 to back. Guard Your Dreams has been well back, 4.9. Goshen, Which One Will Turn Up, 5.3. Song for Someone. It's a big price to me at 11s to back. Molly Ollie's Wishes, again, the Skelton team are in good nick in his 20s. So, again, another fascinating race with every horse with a little bit of a chance here. Ryan, how are you playing the Ascot Hurdle?
Yeah, I think there's an argument that Buzz could be odds on here. So I think 11 to 10, I'm going to have my £50 to win on him. I think that's a little bit of value, given the fact that if you go through Goshen's form since that defeat when he came down, obviously at the last in the Triumph Hurdle, it's very ordinary, I think, in my opinion, in the context of what Buzz has done since. Like, he obviously won the Kingwell very impressively at Wincanton, but Song for Someone, that's not his cup of tea around there. Over, what was it, 1.5 miles furlongs, just shy of 2 miles. He gets away with it around Cheltenham on a stiff track, Song for Someone, but not around Wincanton. I know it was heavy ground. He got his own way that day, and the runs either side of that aren't good enough to win it for Goshen. He has to give weight away as well to Buzz. He was coming off the back of a career best on the flat when winning the Cesarewitch. Him and Burning Victory were 8 lengths clear. He won that off 96 that day. To be honest, it's a type of horse that he can run on the flat or over hurdles, and you'd expect a solid run from. He's very consistent. Guard Your Dreams obviously won a really competitive handicap hurdle at Cheltenham last time, and the form has been frank since, in fairness. But he's around 7-2, 4-1 at the moment, 4.8 in the exchange. The juice has gone out of his price, and I just think this is Buzz's race to lose. So at around 2.18, 2.22 he's out to now. We're going to have our 50 quid on him. As I said, I think there's a case to be made that he should be odds on, and I'd be disappointed if he wasn't able to do the business there.
Okay, Buzz then potentially odds against could be value for Ryan, for Nicky Henderson and Nico de Boinville. Tom Collins, do you agree or disagree?
No, I agree. I completely agree. I think he should be odds on. He was 6-4 in places yesterday, I think, and I took a bit of that. I think that was a good price. I think he should be around 5-6, maybe 4-5. He's running against a couple of horses in Goshen and Song for Someone that I just don't really know what to expect. Now, if Song for Someone bounces back to when he won this race last year, then he's a major player and a big price at 9-1. But that Aintree Hurdle pulled-up effort was really disappointing, and he's had a wind-up since. Goshen, who knows what you're going to get. In the Triumph, he was so good. In the Kingwell, he was so good.
I don't think Goshen knows, does he?
He doesn't know,
Even when it's happening.
I think we'll find out. He's a classic in-play bet to lay or lay to bet, whatever, depending on how he travels after the first mile. There's been a bit of money for him, which is interesting.
Because, I mean, at Cheltenham, you knew early on, you're like, he's not. He's not
exactly.
He's hating this.
Yeah, you don't know anything right now, but as soon as they jump off and take the first couple of hurdles, you'll see whether Goshen is the real Goshen or not today. I thought Guard Your Dreams was an interesting price, a big price yesterday, I think double figures. Now, he's been heavily punted, but Buzz is a selection. He was just so good in the Cesarewitch. I haven't really forgiven him for that because I was on Burning Victory that day, and the front two drew clear. But if you can't beat him, join them. And that's a lovely link, isn't it? If you can't beat him, join them. So
it was until Buzz. You said how good it was. A couple of people at home. By the way, Tom Siegel gave you the 1-2 in that last race at Haydock. So
a pro.
You can't keep. I mean, you can't. I was going to say you can't keep a good man down. When is he down? At the prices, Molly Ollie's Wishes, says Mally Draycott. Backing Nico de Boinville at short price should come with a health warning, says Stephen Lofters. And Toon 2020 also agrees that maybe not too many de Boinville fans at home. Guard Your Dreams being really well back. He could turn out to be the next Ballyandy, as it were, progressing out of handicaps for the Twist and Davies team. I thought Song for Someone had a big chance. I think it was a jockey change, wasn't it? Aidan Coleman wasn't on board at Aintree, and I just think a small field. He's a 3-time Grade 2 winner. He loves small fields. He loves these kind of tracks. He loves good ground. Everything looks in favour. Tom Simmons had a winner yesterday. They're not firing necessarily. He's had, I think it's like 2 from 50 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that's the concern. But it's another one that you after a couple of furlongs, you're going to get a different idea.
He got a very easy lead in this last year. They came home something like 106% sectional percentage of the overall time. So he didn't steal the race, but he had the red carpet rolled out for him, and he duly accepted. I don't think that's going to happen here. Molly's Ollie's Wishes went forward. I was very prominent over 2 miles at Wetherby in that mare's race. I think she's definitely going to go forward. Goshen could well pull quite hard and go forward. So Song for Someone's going to be taken on. I don't want to worry Tom, but I'm a big Buzz fan as well. A shout out to the Betfair Sportsbook as well, because I've got quite a few boosts in my locker on Betfair there, and he was what was he? Yeah, he was risked 5-4. I managed to boost it up to 11-8. So up the arm. Very happy with Buzz for this race. I think he's going to take a lot of beating. Hits the line really well. Song for Someone, of course, probably didn't help his chance at Aintree either, because of course he fell and then was interfering with Buzz up the straight there at Aintree.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said he would have beaten Abracadabras, but he'd finished a little bit closer. Hits the line really well at this sort of trip. Nicky Henderson is talking very glowingly about him, and obviously this is Irish Run was really good, and he's absolutely fit for this. So I'm happy with the up the arm 11-8.
Okay, there we go. Buzz currently 2.08 to back, so definitely shorter than John's money is on at. With Guard Your Dreams, the one very well backed. I mean that Cheltenham form, the speed figure was fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool Cody, of course, he wasn't beaten when coming down last week. Captain Morgs has won. Art Approval's won.
Yeah,
this is a significantly stiffer test,
Yeah.
but he's a 5-year-old. We don't know how good this horse is yet.
Exactly, he could still be improving, and he, as I mentioned,
But he's placed in a grade. What he was third behind My Drogo. He's not,
He's got really good form in the book.
Yeah.
Yet he was available at a double-figure price earlier this week, maybe yesterday as well. Now I think we're getting the odds that we should be getting about Guard Your Dreams. He's a very interesting runner in here. And just to touch again on Buzz at the trip, spoke to Jess Stafford, who's part of Thurlow Thoroughbreds, and she said, who owned Buzz, and she said that they'll be going up to 3 miles sooner rather than later. So he'll really be hitting the line powerfully. If he's banged there, coming over the last couple of hurdles, you'd expect him to win this race. But and it looks like Nicola Boinville's going to be very prominent.
And albeit in handicap company, Buzz has got 2 good runs on his CV here at Ascot from around this time of the year as well. So there's loads to like about his chance.
Yeah, interesting. Again, interesting where he lines up, because he not so sleepy. He couldn't get not so sleepy.
Yeah.
But John Blance, over to you.
Well, Molly's Ollie's Wishes has done what I thought that she would do, and she's taking on Song for Someone. Buzz just taking a bit of a trail in behind those 2, and then Guard Your Dreams, and then Goshen, who has been prone to be a little bit on the free side and the keen side, and as actually, that Kingwell Hurdle win at Wincanton, he was prominent virtually the whole way. He's being held up today after the first 2 flights. That's interesting, Tom.
Yeah, slightly odd. He's a bit keen in behind. I think we're going to see the best of him over fences, to be fair. It'll be interesting how he runs today. If he really performs to how we've seen him perform in the past in the Triumph and the Kingwell, then they might stick to hurdling. But, I mean, I wouldn't be a better in running right now. I don't know about you guys.
He's one of those horses, isn't he? That I kind of, whenever I see him running, I'm like, do I want to bet in this race at all? Because
you don't know what to expect.
You don't know what to do. But Song for Someone has careered away here. Again, this is a track that certainly suits these tactics, but you do wonder whether
they're going a good bit faster purely on the figures than they were in this race last year. He was dawdling around over standard times for the early sectionals, so he is maybe a little bit free. Molly Ollie's Wishes has now just dropped back a little bit, not taking him on. Whether that's by accident or design, I'm not too sure. Your eye's still drawn though to the favourite, who's getting a lovely run round. Interesting as well, in that hurdle race, that big handicap hurdle race over the 2 miles last year in December, he was brought wide the whole way. This time round, he's being just positioned up right on that rail, saving the ground.
Very different ground conditions as
well. Yeah, they are, but it's interesting that he was conceding a lot of ground on that occasion. He might have been the best place to be on the track, but he was still happy to concede that ground, but he's happy to take a position there on the rail, just following through the leading duo.
Ryan, talk to us about the market, because Song for Someone has got that easy lead. He was going a bit quick. He's now slowed it down again. It could be a masterful ride from the front. How's the market reacting to that, and also Goshen and where Buzz is positioned?
Yeah, so Song for Someone's halved in price with off a BSP of 11.9. He's now into around 6.4. Goshen definitely has no excuses today. He's settled much better than he previously has. He's still taking a little bit of a pull under Jamie Moore, but definitely not as severe as he has done in the past. So he's no excuses. He should be running a good race. He's around 9-2, 4-1 at the moment. Buzz is something similar to what he was at the start. He's been around 5-4. Molly's Ollie's Wishes making ground on the outside for Bridget Andrews, but more keen, I think she is, than anything. Guard Your Dreams is travelling away. In fairness, all 5 runners are travelling well within themselves. I'm happy enough with Buzz in running, but I think Goshen, everything seems to be in his favour now. They're going a decent enough gallop. He's settled well enough at the back, so he'd be probably the biggest danger to me in running, the fact I'm on Buzz.
Yeah, tough one to call this. Song for Someone being challenged by the key Molly's Ollie's Wishes. Guide Your Dreams and Buzz have got that lovely position. Goshen, which Goshen is going to turn up? Is he going to find anything off the bridle here? But Song for Someone still out in front. But they've gone a good solid gallop here.
They have, yeah. They've just concertinaed up a little bit. Interesting that Goshen seems to be pulling at the rear of the field there as well. He seems to be pulling more now than he was at the start of the race. That might just be me not quite seeing things correctly. But
it could just be the horse.
Well, yeah, exactly. But Molly Ollie's Wishes has gone back to pester Song for Someone out in front. So again, I mean, Buzz is such a, I don't want to put the kibosh on, but he's such a lovely jumper of hurdles as well. He's been really economical and slick over all his flights so far. And again, he's just getting the perfect trail into this race. If he hits the line like he did in the Martel, the hurdle at Aintree, I'm living in the past. You know the race. The 2.5 mile hurdle at Aintree. He's going to be tough to hold out here, I reckon.
Okay, Song for Someone though still has the lead here from Molly's Ollie's Wishes. I'm going to call you call them home, John.
Well, that's very kind of you. They're starting to make the turn for home here, and Song for Someone still out in front. Leads by about a length and a half. Molly Ollie's Wishes is now being driven along, just taking that trail. Just in behind them is the favourite Buzz, and goes pretty well 2 lengths off Song for Someone. Just going to sneak round the inside. Goshen is, though, making headway and has sneaked round the inside, saved plenty of ground there. So it's going to be interesting as they come towards the second last flight of hurdles. The leader jumped it well. Favourite now just being asked 1 or 2 questions. Still relatively confident in the saddle, Nico de Boinville. Song for Someone now being driven along, and here comes Buzz now, going really nicely. Drawn alongside, hasn't been asked a question at all. Pops over, again, a really quick, slick and accurate jump. Guard Your Dreams is battling on. Goshen's not found a great deal, and racing inside the closing stages now. Buzz, always going well, had a lovely run round just off the back of the speed, and has won as a short price favourite should, to coin a phrase.
Lovely stuff.
Song for Someone in second, Guard Your Dreams in third.
This is the one. I mean, we've got the Betfair Chase coming up later, but I would love to see an anti-post price about Buzz for the Stayers Hurdle. I think he's got a great chance.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
Well, Ryan, that's over to you. I don't know how quickly they come through.
Yeah, no, I should get it any second now. So when I do, Tom, I'll make it known.
Okay, lovely stuff. Buzz then beats Song for Someone, who's run a cracker. I mean, he is the yardstick. He's, like I said, he's a 3-time Grade 2 winner. He won this race last year when, of course, Nico de Boinville was on him. Ryan, you said Buzz should have been odds on, and there's not really a point in the race where you were doubting your decision there.
No, and we're 8-1 from 12-1 Buzz for the Stayers. So it's very interesting. In fairness, he hits the line strongly over that trip. You'd imagine 3 miles will be fine for him. And just going back to Goshen, I think we can forget about him at this stage. Travelled well into it. No excuses today. I think the trip these days, 2.5, is probably more suited to him than 2 mile. I know he had to give a bit of weight away there, but where do you go with him? I think they're in between a rock and a hard place. He's probably mid 150 to low 150 horse now, which is obviously going to be really disappointing on their part because at one stage he got to superstar, but I think he might end up in handicaps at the end of the season. So, but it's all about Buzz today. He travelled really well into it. He ended up hitting around 280 and running, so just over 7-4 at one stage. When Aidan Coleman slowed it up down the back on Song for Someone, but as you said, it was pretty straightforward. And now he's 8-1 from 12-1 for Stayers, which I'm sure will be very popular.
Okay, yeah, 8-1. He's 7.62 at the back on the exchange. Of course, that will settle down in a second. Classical Dream still topping the betting after that resurgent display at the back end of last season. Time Hill, of course, who didn't make it to Cheltenham, is a 7.8 shot to back, and last year's winner Flooring Porter is 10.5. So again, a little bit of a. It's a bit of a derided race, or it has been over the years, the Stayers Hurdle. But it's always the most. It's kind of the most unpredictable market at this point. You never quite know who's going to turn up.
Well, he's an absolutely legit contender, though, on what he's done. I mean, that was a really authoritative display. There was just that moment where they took the second last and you felt that maybe Song for Someone was quickening up again, and Buzz he wasn't sort of shaken up by de Boinville, but he just thought, well, he's got to click through the gears again. But then he just, within a matter of strides, got alongside, put the race to bed very quickly indeed. He's got that form at Aintree where, he was gaining. He wasn't going to beat Abacadabras, but he was gaining on the line. 3 miles, absolutely perfect for him. I was guilty. It's 10 to follow time of the year, isn't it? And I was thinking, staying hurdle division here in the UK, you're probably going to be looking to Ireland for the winner of the race, but Paisley Park will probably win a race or two here before he goes to the Cheltenham Festival. This fella ran up against Paisley Park. I'd be... certainly at Ascot, the long walk hurdle, I'll be wanting to be on this fella. He looks like the real deal, and he's obviously still improving. And it was a really, really good display.
Buzz then, a lovely winner of the Ascot Hurdle, beating song for someone into second place. Can he win a stayers? I saw you on your phone there, Tom. Have you backed him?
Yeah, just backed him 8. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Lovely stuff. And George says, I agree with Tom, Buzz for the stayers. And Hugh Masson says, so many Gary Moore horses are raw. Interesting that, Goshen could end up. Gary Moore does have an eye for a few of those spring and February sort of handicaps. He
Got to go
down.
chasing with him now, surely.
Yeah.
I mean, where's his future lie over hurdles? He's been disappointing since that triumph. I mean, bad luck in the triumph, but still.
I just don't know what it
Try
what he
fences.
is.
Go on, Gary, try fences. There you go. There's a personal shout out.
Free advice.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to try something with him. He's got loads of ability.
Yeah.
We know that. He's just not performing as he did in the triumph.
Okay, well, good luck if you keep following Goshen.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. But the big race of the day coming up in approximately 9 minutes' time. The Betfair Chase, of course, Grade 1 action and a top-class Irish challenger. Of course, the Irish have never won this race. They've had some nice horses come over to challenge. Before Salmon had a few cracks back in the day, and we've got a very short. Well-fancied favourite here in Aplutan, and Barry Orr is on course at Haydock for a cracking Betfair Chase here, Barry, with a top-class favourite, Aplutan. How's he come over? How's he looking?
Yeah, great renewal of the race. Like you say, Ross, he looks fantastic. He looks hard fit now. A lot of these things have their blankets on. They really he's currently 5-4 favourite, 2.2 on the exchange. So that's why it's probably coming under pressure with the fixed hand. Bristol Dubai, 3-1. It's 8 patiently take right about the average guy, Imperial Laura 14. It's quite the 2 bar. The first sports will hold the 3 places, these great punters here, despite there being just a 7 minutes. I have to say, Bristol Dubai really stands out. He's getting, like myself, Ross, he's been greyer and greyer as the years pass. But he looked absolutely fantastic, and he's holding his head big and proud. He's got his ears pricked. He's really loving it, strutting his stuff around the parade ring here. And he looks a picture. The place will.
Yeah, absolutely. Age is just a number, though, Barry. Age.
Betfair Chase, I think, will call us on his record. I don't. That's all. Yeah, it's working for himself. Yeah, you're right. Age is just a number. Kennesaw won this as an 11. And Bristol Dubai a year younger at 10, but he really does look fantastic, and he's definitely the boss in this parade ring today.
Okay, we're just struggling a bit with the signal there, Barry. So you are just cutting in and out a little bit. How have you played this race?
So I backed up to the third, and I'm going to have a small staver on Royal Pigalle. I think he'll go on the ground okay. I don't think there's a concern. I'm sure Anisha Williams wouldn't be chancing him on this ground if she thought there was any doubt about it whatsoever. So I think he could run well if you.
Okay, just a quick.
Form here, obviously.
Sorry, just cutting out a little bit there again. Just a quick word on the couple that have a couple of questions to answer. Obviously, waiting patiently. That switch to Christian Williams. He's done very well with his stay in chases, hasn't he, Christian Williams? And waiting patiently always been a bit of an enigma.
Yeah, obviously.
Sorry, Barry. We're losing you there. We're losing you there, mate. But yeah, I think we've lost you at the signal there for Barry. But obviously, a lot of people on their phones over at Haydock.
They're all trying to get the price about Buzz in the Stayers Hurdle, aren't they?
That's it. They're following.
We're talking about signal. I don't know if you guys happened to be at Cheltenham last week, but what was that Wi-Fi there? You've got to have signal.
I don't know. We're 6 minutes away from the.
No, but you've got to have signal at a racecourse. I think racecourses need to get Wi-Fi hotspots or something sorted for the punters.
I don't know if you've noticed, Tom, but racing is often a few years behind other sports.
Yes, exactly.
So, Wi-Fi hotspots would be fantastic, wouldn't it? As if the world should be connected to the internet. But that's what you get as well. Obviously, racecourses are often in rural areas, which doesn't help. But maybe you could write to the government, see if they can sort that out.
Good luck with the Wi-Fi hotspot at Hexham.
Yeah, there you go. Hong Kong to Haydock to Hexham. Ryan, what's the bet here in the big one?
I think Aplutar is the most likeliest winner, Ross, and I was close to putting him up as my bet in the right foot. I'm against Bristol Dubai for a couple of reasons I'll touch on shortly. So I'm going to put in a lay on him in the 2-place market. I think he'll finish outside the first 2. So we'll put a stake in for £40 to lay at around 2.18. It's a short enough price, obviously, but it's just to kind of show people the different kind of bets and markets you can bet on. on the Betfair Exchange. So my bet in the race is a lay on Bristol the Mine, the 2-place market. And the reasons being, I just think the ground is the big key to him. He's obviously that year older this year. Generally, when he wins this race, he can grind away from the front and grind his rivals into submission. I don't think he'll be able to do that this year. Appletar is too classy for him to do that, I think. John talked through the race at the start of what he thinks is going to happen, and I'm in a similar boat. I think Rachel Blackmore will just sit in behind him and pounce when she wants to. And it was interesting, Darryl Jacobs' comments when he got beat by Lost in Translation in the race a couple of seasons back. He thought he didn't go hard enough that day. It was a small enough field. And obviously, with not a whole pile of pace on here, he could end up doing the opposite here, I think, and going too quick from the front. So that's an angle too to the bet we're having by laying Bristol and Mine in the first two at around 6 to 5 on the exchanges. But I do think Appletar is the most likeliest winner, and at around 2.3, I wouldn't put people off backing him at that.
Okay, yeah, Appletar, yeah. Again, speed figure-wise, very much, I think it does pay to look at the figures on soft ground versus fast ground. And Appletar, I've got 6 points clear of the next one in on good ground. So that's that Gold Cup form. Of course, he is, he's 3 seasons now. I think he's been beaten on his reappearance. But as you were saying earlier,
Yeah.
They weren't the Betfair Chase, were they?
No, and they've obviously targeted this race for quite some time. The Irish trainers have thought, well, there's an obvious supremacy that they had over the British horses when it came to the big spring festivals last year. Obviously, last year as well, there were COVID problems at this time of the year, so it was difficult to get horses across from Ireland for some of these big races. But I mean, do they still do that big bonus for this race, the King George and the Gold Cup? That's
Ryan. Do we still have it was £1 million bonus, wasn't it, back in the day? Is it still?
Yeah, there was. I'm not actually too sure. Maybe when Barry's probably gone for the day, he'd be probably the man to ask. I'm not actually too sure is the answer to that one. I don't want to lead it away.
So it's not, at least we know Ryan's not putting it up.
I don't want to get right into trouble. But in the old days, yeah, he win this race, win the King George, and he could go on and have a crack at the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And those are 3 races that look ideal for the new incarnation of Appletar as a 3-mile chaser, because, of course, he was a Close Brothers handicap chase winner, wasn't he, at the Cheltenham Festival a few years back? Then he was...
Quite well handicapped that day, wasn't he?
He was extremely well handicapped, yeah. And then they thought he was a 2.5-miler for a while, and then obviously they up to the 3 miles. And the Savills Chase, as I say, they went a really proper gallop in that race at Leopardstown last year.
I mean, he's another one that you if you'd said, oh, this horse wins 5 fences from home, people would have said, you got mad.
Yeah, but it just showed you how quick they went, and he was able to storm. It's a deceptively stiff finish at Leopardstown. He came home really well over it, and he just obviously, found Minella Indo a little bit too tough to pass in the Cheltenham Gold Cup, but they were nicely on from a horse who'd won the race for the last 2 seasons. So, I mean, in terms of recent staying top-class form in the book, this horse has absolutely got it. Obviously, Bristol Demise won this race 3 times, second in it as well. I think the only time I backed him, was a race he was second, which just kind of tells you all you need to know about my punting. Royal Pagaille, big ground question mark for me. Waiting Patiently, just a big question mark. He's a lovely horse.
Yeah.
And, he's been second in the King George, and he may well... I still remember Brian Hughes absolutely, beside himself with rage when he was brought down in the King George back in 2018 as well, when long way out, but he was still going very nicely. Clondor Castle's got bits and pieces of form that you get excited about if you want to back at a big price in this race.
I mean, he's, for me, 2.9 to finish in the 4. I think 3 miles, good ground.
Yeah.
A few of these aren't going to necessarily appreciate conditions.
Yeah.
4 places in a 7-runner race
Yeah.
for a horse who sprung to life last season on good ground. He's my absolute filth thievery on the place markets.
Well, there undoubtedly will be options as far as that's concerned, but I just think, as I say, with Next Destination not being in the race, that's just slightly muddied the waters, but only slightly. I think sometimes you've just got the best horse in the race staring at you in the face, and Appletar is that.
Tom Collins, stare me in the face and tell me what wins.
I think Appletar will probably win, but he's not my selection. I think he's about the right price, 5 to 4, and I want to be looking elsewhere now. Unfortunately, Next Destination has been pulled out, so we don't have the 3 places. Royal Pagaille is my each way fancy.
And we do still have the sportsbook's holding up the 3 places.
Well, that's phenomenal.
There you go.
Royal Pagaille is my fancy. He just destroyed Espada Rome last year at Haydock. Espada Rome was then challenging Chantry House. Aintree potentially would have beaten Chantry House. And then he just demolished the Peter Marsh field by 16 lengths. So clearly loves Haydock, stays the trip well. Yes, there are ground doubts. But the doubts are because he's never run on ground like this, apart from in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And he just didn't jump well that day. He finished lame, and I don't think he handled Cheltenham. So I'd be positive that he'd handle the conditions today, and hopefully he can run into a place.
Okay, other horses to mention. Frizzy Red says Imperial Aura could run a big race, but I hope Bristol wins. Mark McGann says, we know Bristol's up against it, but we don't care, with 7 exclamation marks at least. Genghis says, waiting patiently is the British presenting Percy, hoping he can come good today. And plenty of others. Mark McGann, come on, Darryl. And Frizzy's also sticking with Bristol Demise. They jump off for the Betfair Chase, and leading them up, Royal Pagaille and Bristol Demise in a potentially rhyming couplet, depending on how you pronounce the Williams horse. Waiting patiently, held up last, didn't make a great shape, brush to the top of the first as I hand you over to John Blance to set the scene.
Well, yes, Bristol Demay's gone out. Royal Pagaille has surprised me in terms of how prominently he's being ridden here. Interesting decision to make there. Imperial Aura just pressing the pace as well. So they're going along 29 miles per hour at the moment. They're not going overly quick, but they're not dawdling either. A Plus Tard's in a lovely position there. Rachel Blackmore on the rail there in the red colours, waiting patiently. An aptly named horse, because he does wait patiently in his races, alongside Chatham Street Lad, who I still remember absolutely blitzing the field in the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup last year, when he was clearly a very well handicapped horse. But Bristol Demay's got some company out in front. It's Royal Pagaille. Tom is a Royal Pagaille fan. Are you happy with the way things are going early doors?
Yeah, I like to see him being ridden prominently. Just then he got him very tight to that fence, but was very clever. Ears pricked, seems like he's loving it out in front. Bristol Demise just lost half a length over that fence. I'm sure he'll jump better here. Well, they're both steadied into it, but they both got over well. Imperial Aura jumped nicely. Hopefully he bounces back this year. He looked so promising at the start of last season before disappointing.
Well, he's got the, again, from an in-running punter's perspective, you see two horses taking each other on. The first place your eye is drawn to is what is sat in that bubble in behind, and Imperial Aura is that horse. Not too far away is A Plus Tard, waiting patiently Chatham Street Lad and Clondor Castle at the back as well. But Bristol Demise and Royal Pagaille also taking each other on here. Again, it can be a track, certainly in testing ground anyway, Ryan, where they just don't come back from the front. So I wonder what conversations are being had between Daryl Jacob and Charlie Deutsch right now. But one of them looking to the other saying, "You're ruining my tactic here, mate." But how's the market reacted?
Yeah, A Plus Tard, they're loving A Plus Tard. The way Rachel Blackmore sitting forward about 6 lengths off Bristol Demise into 187 now, so just under 10 to 11. Bristol Demise now, Daryl Jacob has said, I've won these races from the front of the pass. I'm going to do the same again. He's taken it up from Royal Pagaille. I think Charlie Deutsch now is happy enough to sit second. Imperial Aura is third, but A Plus Tard is into 4 to 5 now and getting shorter all the time with Bristol Demise and Royal Pagaille kind of taking each other on a little bit up front. And for my place lay bet on Bristol Demise, I'm fairly happy that something is taking him on, and it's making Daryl Jacob think of how quick he's going.
Okay, Bristol Demise then out in front here. Tom Collins, what are your early thoughts for the Betfair Chase so far? So far, not necessarily predictable, but no huge surprises yet. Everything's jumping well. Maybe waiting patiently. Again,
yeah, who knows what to expect with that horse. It'd be great if he bounces back as well, like Imperial Aura. I mean, my initial thoughts are A Plus Tard's in the prime position, jumping really nicely. Rachel Blackmore never gets her positioning wrong in any race. No. She's phenomenal, arguably the best.
That's her. That's what Barry Geraghty did, isn't it? He never did anything flash. He just said, right, I'm going there because that's the best position.
And if you get in the best position, you're going to win races that you, one, should win, and then two, you shouldn't win, but you're in the best position, and therefore you steal a march on your rivals. That's why she's so brilliant. And as you can see there, she's in the perfect position, just 3 lengths behind the leaders. And
that's why we're getting a bit broad and slightly off topic here while we're watching a live race, but that is the main reason why she and Holly Doyle on the flat have proven that really it's not about masculinity at all when it comes to jockeyship.
No.
It's all about, are you putting the horse in the right place the majority of times in the correct place to win the race? And as Tom said, I mean, Sir Gerhard in the bumper was a wonderful example of how to get to the front, then wind things up and just always keep the rest in behind you. And she's just a fabulous tactician. And she'll be very happy with the way things are working out here, mind. It's not a particularly difficult tactical position to get A Plus Tard in, given the way the race is going, but he's jumping beautifully. And Royal Pagaille, I think, is doing a little bit too much out in front. 31 miles per hour now, sectionally speaking. So they're tanking along a bit here as they go out into the final circuit.
Well, you say it's not about a hard position to get it in, but you always think, well, why don't the other jockeys do that then? Yeah. That's the thing with Rachel Blackmore, who hasn't won an A Plus Tard, by the way, for 2 years, of course. That Savills Chase, she was on Manila Indo, of course, on that day. So Bristol Demise and Royal Pagaille taking each other on. Imperial Aura still, if he stays, which he has in theory, he's won he won at 1 to 25, but Imperial Aura is down. Never mind whether he stays. He's gone there, Ryan.
Patiently as well.
Yeah.
and he's hampered waiting patiently, and he might end up being pulled up at this rate. But the way he's going,
jumped that absolutely fantastically as
Ooh,
well.
Bristol.
Another lovely leap there as well.
and Bristol Demise steadied into that. So far, I mean, Aplutar's he's with long odds on now here, Ryan. Everything's going right for him.
Yeah, he's into about 4 to 9, heading towards 2 to 5. Look at Chatham Street Lad travelling in 4th. He's running a huge race for Sean Quillen and Mick Winters. Your 4th place Thievery is going okay as well if Bristol Demise falls in a hole, which he could. Interesting, Royal Pagaille is running a huge race on ground. He probably won't excel on in the future, but Rachel Blackmore, you talked about position, she's A1 turning into the straight. She's a couple of lengths off the leader. She has them in her sights. She's around 1.35 at the moment, so 3-1 on. And the race is starting to heat up now, turning into the straight.
It is indeed. Royal Pagaille still in front then. Bristol Demise behind those. Aplutard is stalking. Everything going right so far. Chatham Street Lad back in 4th place. Clondall Castle is plugging on potentially, hopefully, for that 4th place. Royal Pagaille, though, still in front. Just steadies into that. Aplutard is coming. They're pulling double, though. Rachel Blackmore must be incredibly confident here. Chatham Street Lad is running an absolute stormer back in 3rd place. But Royal Pagaille versus Aplutard here. Haydock form versus Cheltenham form. That is the question. But Aplutard looks to have this race pretty much at his mercy, and Rachel Blackmore just goes through the gears and takes it up from Royal Pagaille in 2nd place, and the rest of them have got absolutely nothing here on Henry de Bromhead's charge, who is absolutely bolted up here, barely come off the bridle. Everything's gone to plan for Rachel Blackmore. Royal Pagaille back in 2nd, one fence to jump. Absolutely perfect for Aplutard. Has pinged it. Nothing has stopped this horse. He's been given a perfect ride. But to be fair, I think you could have held him 20 lengths off the back and he still would have won that easily, because he's barely gone through the gears to win the Betfair Chase by quite a margin. Certainly the biggest margin we've seen on that kind of ground. Back in 2nd is Fresh Air. Royal Pagaille comes home in 2nd place. Back in 3rd, we don't know, because it's that far back. John Blance would have been looking for 3rd.
Yes, I'd have been picking the binoculars up, and it might have taken a while to locate. But yeah, it was a really, really fantastic display. Everything's worked out nicely in the run, but you've still, under those circumstances, got to go and seal the deal. The deal was sealed a long way out. Royal Pagaille's run a really good race. Good shout from Tom there for 2nd. But this is the best horse in the race on all known form. And does Henry de Bromhead watch this show? I'm not too sure if he does. If he does, we need to find out. If that bonus still exists, Kempton surely, and then Gold Cup. Bosh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Aplutard has absolutely sluiced up there, and again, let's not talk about Cheltenham Festival as of yet. Let's just focus on what has happened there, because it is a Grade 1 race, of course, Ryan. And again, from an in-running perspective, I mean, if you were an in-running backer, there'd only been one button you were pressing.
Yeah, Aplutard, like from the start, Rachel Blackmore, A1 position, sitting in behind the pace. I'd say Darryl Jacob won't be too happy with Charlie Deutsch coming in. He kind of ruined his race for him. Turning in, he ended up pulling up Bristol Demise. So if you did end up back in Clondalk Castle in the 4 places, we might be doing a John on it and finishing 100 lengths behind, but getting paid. I think he finished 4th, but the winner, absolutely bomb-proof. 4-1 now we are from 7-1 for the Gold Cup. Off the back of what happened in Down Royal when Brunella Indo getting beat, I can see that 4-1 getting shorter. I would be interested in Royal Pagaille on his next start if he got his ground. He travelled and jumped really well, much better than what he did in the Gold Cup. If you can get him back to Haydock on ground, I don't know if they'll go down the handicap route with him. Maybe might be a handicap for him back at Haydock on heavy ground. But he ran a really good race. Imperial Law was disappointing, but I think Bristol Demise and Royal Pagaille went hard enough early to get a lot of them out of comfort zone, but they just couldn't get Aplutard out of his comfort zone. And he was obviously beaten on his last couple of seasons kind of push on up, but Henry de Bromhead had him spot on today. And as John mentioned earlier, Rachel Blackmore wasn't getting off Bob Ollinger to come here for no reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Aplutard has absolutely bolted up. Is he your idea of the Gold Cup winner? Let's see the response on the chat. Liam Monaghan says Clondall getting 4th. Yeah, I agree, Liam. Never mind the winner winning by half the track. Serious horse, that says Frizzy Red. Never in doubt. Class says Neil Francis. And Aplutard wins from Royal Pagaille, who's run an absolute stormer again. I mean, I think Ryan's doing him a disservice there. Handicaps, he could go to Kempton. He could. I mean, I'm thinking Newbury, Denman Chase maybe looks ideal given how that track rides, and surely Cheltenham, maybe Aintree for the bowl. I mean, he's going to keep running into Aplutard though. That's the problem. But when was the last time we saw a Grade 1 one like that?
I mean, it's been a long time. Obviously, we saw Snowfall win the Oaks by a long way, but that's on the flat compared to the jumps. He was just.
I mean, that's
class
Corto in the King George is kind of the obvious one that
yeah.
springs to mind. But
yeah, I can't really think of another one off the top of my head at the moment. But that was so impressive, wasn't it? Surely he's the leading player in the Gold Cup at this stage. Manila Indo obviously slightly disappointed on his reappearance. Yes, Royal Pagaille ran really well, got the forecast up and the each way play, which is good. But he missed every other fence and then jumped really well in the other fences. So that'd be the one negative for Royal Pagaille. He needs to jump a bit better if he's going to play his hand in.
He won't be bothered. He was bothered by the Bristol Derby.
And obviously at some point, meteorologically speaking, there's going to be some rain. And that will definitely help him.
In theory.
It's a good example as well of how a horse can be a very good jumper under certain conditions as far as the ground's concerned. But then the jumping can go to pot when he's just travelling at that slightly faster speed that he's not quite as comfortable with. The jumping, generally speaking, with Royal Pagaille last year was marvellous. So I think when we get the rain, we get some really soft underfoot conditions, he could be very interesting in a big race that might cut up due to bad ground.
And the thing with his jumping is, it's not that he makes mistakes. It's just that he's very hesitant sometimes going towards his fences and then gets in tight and then bungles them. He doesn't plough through them all the time.
No.
So his jumping's good. It's just he's a bit hesitant in his mind. Maybe the ground conditions today, like John said.
He's got that French style of getting quite close over them. He
Yeah.
doesn't sort of give him plenty of air, and that and also as well. I mean, I've never ridden a horse in my life, but having backed many of them in steeplechases, especially when the fences come fairly quickly. Just getting out of a rhythm, one mistake could then just send the whole thing into a tailspin, and the opposite can apply as well. A good jump can suddenly get you into a lovely rhythm. So he was a little bit like that today, but yeah.
Gold Cup market up there on screen at 4.7 to back Apple Tard, Manila Indo 6.8, and then it's double figures the rest. Envoy Allen, Chantry House, of course, Album Photo, Galvin Champ. It could potentially be a cracking one, but it could potentially be a Henry de Bromhead benefit again. As we move to Ascot, Apple Tard says, see you later. To his rivals, and we say see you later to Haydock as we go over to Ascot here for the handicap chase. Very different proposition here, over 2 miles and a furlong, going to be fast and furious, although we do have potentially a front-running favourite here in Before Midnight. So I say fast and furious, it could also be won by the market leader, not seeing another rival. 3.85, Monsieur Lecoq, who was a 101. Done at 101, I'm pretty sure last time he ran at Ascot 5.6. Sully Dock, I think, has got a huge chance on his best form round here is 5.6. And then it's bigger prices than the rest. This could be very different to what we've just seen here, Ryan. I was all ready to take on Before Midnight, but then I looked at the race again and I thought, yeah, he could get an easy lead out in front. But I still think he has to improve a little bit, the favourite, against some classy handicappers, but he is on the way up. What's the bet for you?
Yeah, I think he's worth taking on, to be honest, Ross. I just think that the last day at Cheltenham, if you watch that back, he winged every fence. He met every fence in a great stride, and he was kind of taking a length and a half a length here and there. Ended up winning by 6 lengths, and I think he was flattered a bit. I can't imagine he'll jump. He's obviously a good jumper, but he met every fence on a great stride. I can't imagine things will go quite to plan today at around 3.9. He wouldn't be for me. I think Diego de Charmel is the play in the race for me. Small play, obviously. I'm going to have a £10 win bet on him at 14. And then in the 3 plates market, I'm going to have a £10 on him there at around 5 to 2, 3.5. I think he's a strong traveller. He was second in the race off at £6 higher mark a couple of seasons back. I think Lorcan Williams is one of the most underrated jump jockeys in England at the moment. He's a cracking rider. He's good value for his £3. But yeah, I'd be taking on the favourite in the place markets. But my play in the race is Diego de Charmel at around 13 to 1 on the exchange.
Okay, Diego de Charmel then, who was backed and then drifted back out again for the Williams and Nichols combination here. Over to you, Tom Collins. Before Midnight, again the front runner, the up and comer against some proper Ascot and 2 mile chasers here. Are you with the improver or the experience?
I'm with the improver. I usually go for the improver in these kind of races with this look. Obviously, you've got plenty of horses that often run over this course and distance. Diego de Charmel, Dolos, Amula Gold, Sully Dock, Monsieur Lecoq as well last time. Monsieur Lecoq, I think, is a big player in here, but I prefer Before Midnight. He's only had 18 starts. He seems to be improving every run for Sam Thomas. He just jumps so nicely at Cheltenham. I know Ryan's touched on it. He might not jump so well today, but I just think he can see that stride and he just leaps. He trusts the jockey every time, and that's what you need in a front runner. He smashed Sky Pirate by 6 lengths. I can't see the form being reversed there. Sky Pirate on his one start at Ascot jumped badly out to the left, which is a big concern, I think, for him. And yeah, Sam Thomas, who's having a phenomenal year. I think he had 26 winners from 92 runners last year, 28% strike rate. He hasn't quite kicked on so far this year, but he's had a few winners and a few big horses run into a place. So the fab for me before midnight.
John, quickly.
A Moolah Gold each way in all the place markets you can possibly lay your dirty each way thieving hands on.
Look at that confidence after the earlier Stony Mountain.
This is how I genuinely think this is how to play the smaller fields. There is value to be had as they set off for this 2 mile chase. Like I said, I'm hoping Sully Dock picks up some of the pieces here, but before midnight, jumps out in front. Monsieur Lecoq is up there as well. John, set us the scene here for this 2 mile handicap chase, please.
Yeah, no prizes for guessing that before midnight goes out in front. Obviously, he was carrying a lightweight at Cheltenham. It was a very impressive performance. He's got a bit more on his back here. We don't know exactly whether he'll be able to produce what he produced at Cheltenham at Ascot, but there's a pretty good chance he'll go well. And he's not necessarily getting a particularly difficult time of things out in front at the moment as they come to the second. Popped over that nicely. Monsieur Lecoq in second. Then a Moolah Gold was written a bit closer to the pace than he was. I thought he just picked up the pieces last time out, but I look back at his form. He's actually done that trick at Ascot before in fairly muddling races as well. So I think he's just a real Ascot specialist, and he's a good jumper as well, as that thankfully that third fence has proven. Sully Dock didn't take that too well. Diego de Charmy and Dolas, the two in the same ownership, both have got very good Ascot form if you mine through the form deep enough. But you do have to do a little bit of form mining to find it. Sky Pirate getting his usual hold-up ride, and Sully Dock after that mistake relegated to just about last.
Yeah, Moolah Gold, they popped cheek pieces on him, and they said he was a bit lazy. He took a bit of warming up, I think, which was a tongue-in-cheek comment last time out, as he rattled home to beat Monsieur Lecoq on the line. But before midnight, settling into a nice rhythm. Again, I'm talking about good ground speed figures. These Sully Docks, your Sky Pirates and Moolah Gold are well clear here, but interested to see. The thing is, you have to have an opportunity to put in a speed figure, and of course, if you're a front runner who can set your own fractions, you're not necessarily going to record a massive number. No. And currently, before midnight is doing what he's been doing to success again. He's out in front. He's got that lead. Although, saying that,
Dolos is coming up now to challenge. Interesting move, I think, this by Bryony Frost on Dolos. Maybe to suit Diego de Charmil as well, who's potentially the stable and owner first string. Just taking the lead now over before midnight. He's still travelling well. Sam's obviously happy to take a lead. Interesting to see how he handles that, though, given his best performances to date have come when he's made all. Yeah, he's had things his way so far. How's the market reacting? Because there's tactical changes afoot here, Ryan.
Yeah, Sky Pirate, who just lobbing away at the back of the field. He's favoured and running at 3-1. Before midnight, was out to about 11-2. He's back into 130 after kind of settling a little bit better. Now that Bryony Frost taking up on Dolas, who's halved in price. Dolas. He's into around 8-1, haven't gone off. BSP 19. Monsieur Lecoq's very wide on the course. I'm not sure that's Kieran Gedding's plan. Diego de Charmy, my selection's travelling okay in behind horses, and I'd be disappointed if he wasn't able to hit the tree from here anyway. But there's a long way to go, and these races at Ascot, as we know, can change pretty dramatically.
Yeah, they can indeed. Before midnight being challenged by Dolos, then, John, if you had to back one right now, what would you be
It's
on?
tricky. It's a cunning ride from Bryony Frost, and she's very good at those from the front, as we saw at Cheltenham last week. I think the favourite's still going very nicely out in front and hasn't done a huge amount out in front from a time perspective, I wouldn't have thought. But there are still plenty of chances as they come towards the turn into the home straight very shortly. A Moolah Gold still moving well. As long as he gets in the first three, Ross, I'm happy.
There you go. I love it.
Sky Pirate walked through that.
Yeah, Moolah Gold just coming off the bridle a little bit there. This is a messy race. I mean, even Sully Dock, who's not jumped particularly well, he's coming into it now. So I hope he can jump a little bit better up the home straight. But John, call him home as they come into the home straight before midnight, still on the bridle, but 2 or 3 in with chances here.
Whip is now drawn aboard Dolos, so before midnight has travelled really strongly, jumped beautifully throughout the race, leads to Dolos, who's now looking a little bit tired in second, Diego de Charmil in third, then a Moolah Gold, who jumps that one in around about third now and does his customary staying on thing at Ascot. Sky Pirate's getting in with Sully Dock as well. Monsieur Lecoq has now just dropped away down towards the final fence they go. And the leader is before midnight, who got in a bit tight, but he leads. Tom Collins getting excited next to Sully Dock as well. Absolutely flying home. So too Sky Pirate before midnight. A Moolah Gold as they race up towards the line. It's going to be tight before midnight. Oh, I tell you what, Midnight has won. Yes. Moolah Gold second, so I'm relatively happy. You would have been even happier if my horse had just chinned yours there, Tom. I think you're all right.
Yeah, I think he's just got his nose down right on the line. Whew, that was nervy in the end.
I mean,
Let's have a look.
103, 103, 106. It looks like the
you're
far
right.
side.
Yeah.
You're all right, buddy lad.
yeah, it does. It's
No offers. No
yeah,
offers.
yeah, just gone back in now, Ryan. I mean, again, it was on paper after a couple of furlongs. You thought, okay, everything's going to plan again for before midnight. He was then challenged by a couple of horses. He's had to do a little bit different. Amula Goals, I mean, just every single time runs exactly the same race. I don't know what that horse thinks for 90% of the race, but the last 10% certainly knows what to do.
It was actually a good example of what I was saying. However a race is run, he definitely did pick up the pieces of a ferociously run race last time, but this was a much more tactical race, and he still hit the line very well. So he's just a real Ascot specialist. Dan Skelton will be planning. There's been another 2-mile race at the December meeting. I'm sure that Amula Gold will be running it, and he'll probably see him at the February meeting too. He's just a real Ascot specialist.
Yes. Talk us through the market there, Ryan.
Yeah.
Sorry, say again.
Solid dog ran very well.
Yeah.
I think with the market at the moment, it's 103, 102 before midnight. But I think the longer it goes on without being called, obviously if you have a lot of money tied up, you'd rather just get out, wouldn't you? So I'd say that's what's happening more so than it looks like before midnight. I'd be very surprised. I think we all would if he wasn't called the winner. But I just think the longer it goes on, the more in doubt punters are, which is fair enough.
What happened in running there, Ryan? Because, like I said, before midnight will have been, I imagine Sully Dock went fairly short. Amula Gold will have definitely gone short because people will have learned what he does at the back end.
Yeah, Amula Gold hit 1.22, so around 5 to 1 on. Sully Dock obviously came down the outside, thought of one chance. At one stage, he had a big chance. He hit around even money. Amula Gold was matched as high as 100. In the run, and I'll just take into Diego de Charmille because he travelled well for a long way without finding too much as he usually does. He hit 2.32, so he went short enough in the race, but they're still betting 133, 103 before midnight. The results being called there now.
Well, Sky Sports Racing have called it. It's a bit like Fox News in Arizona in the presidential election. They've called it already. They've got before midnight as the winner. Hasn't been quite confirmed. I think the market's now been suspended. So they like to do that. My colleagues at Sky, they like to get the result. And even if it hasn't necessarily been called, if they're happy that it's fine and before midnight chalked up as the winner there slightly before it was official, but it is now, has been officialised, I think. So
always feels a bit like you're on. It's a no-lose situation calling it that early, doesn't it?
Well,
a no-win situation.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you get it right, you get very few people saying, "Oh, well done." If you get it wrong, you get a lot of people saying, "You absolute idiot." Mm-hmm. So I always tend to. As a young chap got in touch with me via social media the other day, was asking me about commentating. How do you call photo finishes? And I said, you just do it on a race by race basis. You do what you see. I immediately thought that, unfortunately, before midnight had won there, Tom. Yeah. And so I was happy to call it. But sometimes you get it wrong. I was a photo finish at Huntingdon I did it last year where I did say it was a photo, but I just said A over B when it was B over A because I just called what I'd seen. But if I think it's too close, I will say photo. I'm not embarrassed about that. I don't question my own masculinity if I do that. So
that's good. I'm glad. But you're right. Sometimes it does feel like it's almost like a personal crusade for people to be like, no, I want to be the first in here.
Yeah,
I want
you don't need to be.
Yeah, yes, you're 100% right. And just looking back at that race again, a couple of those horses in behind ran screamers. Sky Pirate wore a couple of fences down the back. He jumped terribly. Sully Dock as well. I mean, if you were on him, which I think you were.
I was.
Yeah.
But luckily, 3 places got the money back. So
True. He ran very well. Like if he jumped fluently, then he would have been banged there, wouldn't he?
Sky Pirate will have a lot more weight to carry probably in the Grand Annual than he did obviously last year. But he's the type of horse that the market will not say forget about, but you'll get a nice 16, 20 to 1 each way about him in the Grand Annual, and he'd run a really good race.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
Well, and the key thing there, Tom, is again, that was a stop-start, a bit of a muddling little race. Your Sky Pirates, your Sully Docks are normally, most of these kind of races are entering your Cheltenhams in spring are 19, 20
end-to-end gallops as well. So. Yeah, end-to-end gallops, and that's what they like. Stop-start race. Bryony's move on Dolos probably helped before midnight slightly and helped those in behind, but then Dolos just couldn't sustain his run. So before midnight then had the straight at his mercy and he jumped reasonably well. He got in tight to the last and it was a bit nervy, but great ride by Sam. Now, Sam Twiston-Davies has had so many seconds the last few days, and I'm saying that because I've been on a few of them. So I'm glad he got the right end of a result for once.
Yeah, interested to see what the plan is here, because of course, Same Connections have Stolen Silver, who is rated very similarly, I imagine. So two 2-mile handicap chasers in the back pocket for Sam Thomas.
Interesting, isn't it? And Sam Thomas has obviously got Al Dancer as well. So he's got an up-and-coming string of horses. I wouldn't be sleeping on Sam Thomas at all. I think he could be the new player in the training ranks. Obviously, we've got the likes of Tom Lacey, Tom Simmons, there are others. But Sam Thomas is a trainer who's really caught my eye recently.
Yeah, Sam Thomas and Christian Williams out making names for themselves, of course. And of course, Dan Skelton as well. If you have any connection with Paul Nicholls at any point during your career, you must learn a lot.
Far.
Yeah.
Imagine how well Ruby Walsh would have done as a trainer.
Yeah. I mean, he's enjoyed it. Ryan, he's enjoyed himself way too much as a pundit, I think.
Yeah, I think he's more jobs than the whole lot of us put together at the moment. But in fairness, he's a brilliant pundit, Ruby, and it's a fair question. I wonder, probably be similar how Patrick Mullins fares after when he takes over from his father Willie. I'd say he'd be a brilliant trainer as well, but it's all relative, isn't it? They're the best of the game.
Absolutely. Ascot done and dusted. Then we've got one more race to come from Haydock, the 3:35. But don't forget, we've got a little bit of a special offer before we get into that last race over the next few weeks. We're giving you the opportunity to win a right old prize, an ultimate Cheltenham Festival experience for you and 3 friends. Or if you've only got 2 friends, let me know and I'll come with you. We've got weekly prizes as well. But the Christmas Countdown, the Racing Post Christmas Countdown, all you need to do is place a bet on the Racing Post app on any of those 5 dates, and you get put into the draw to win that. So good luck if you are playing. But again, yeah, if you don't know anyone, then we'll go, right?
I'm up for it. Yeah, I'm up for it. We've already earned ourselves a free trip to the Breeders' Cup next year. So we like free trips everywhere, don't we, Ross?
Yeah, absolutely. But although that helicopter ride might be a little bit sketchy personally, but I'll just maybe I'll get the bus. But we've got one more race to come from Haydock. So far today, thoughts, feelings. Obviously the downside of this show is you rattle on to the next race so quickly. Yeah. We'll just let it percolate a little bit. Any thoughts that have come to the fore since then? Are you, apart from your buzz bet?
Yeah, I mean, multiple thoughts. Started badly. Definitely saw it was a bad start, and I was thinking, no, not another one of these. You think
it's going to be one of those days?
Yeah, another one of these days. But no, it's been very good since. Every race has been decent from a punting perspective, and we've seen some great horses as well. I think 2 Cheltenham Festival winners, maybe, Aplutard and Buzz. More confident, especially at the prices with Buzz. I think he's a great bet for the stayers, I really do. Yeah. That race, yes, the market may look competitive, but we've seen Paisley Park kind of be dominant in recent years, and I think Buzz shapes like a horse who could be the new Paisley Park and be dominant in the division. And we've got a nice getting out stakes coming up at Haydock, and Christian Williams fans on Strictly Dancer, and you can oppose him as well. Barry's best bet, Empire Steel. So it's been a good day so far, Ross.
Yeah, I think you've had a good day, Tuck. I mean, apart from Don Levant, you said it would be not only have you put up a 16-1 winner, but you've also said that it'd be a favourite Bacchus Day, and the last 3 horses to win have all been favourites. So me and John have absolutely thieved the places.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with that. I've really enjoyed it.
Ryan's right. I mean, between us, we've done Ryan right. Lost in Translation as an Aplutard and Buzz, and it's not been a bad day, Ryan. Really, not to blow our own trumpets.
Well, yeah, I think that's what you're doing. You're blowing everyone's trumpet. I'm happy if someone else wants to blow my trumpet, they can.
All right.
You have to buy me a drink first, mate. I'll tell you.
Not a literal sense there, but it's been a good day. We've all put up a few winners along the way, and hopefully in the last race, one of us will be able to put up the winner. I think a few of us might have the same selection. So hopefully it's been a really good day's action, and I think I'd like to see Lost in Translation go on from that win in Ascot. Obviously, as Tom mentioned earlier, he had a lot of issues with his wind. I'd just like to see him back that run up and run a big one the next day. He's 12-1 with us in the sportsbook for the King George. So if he turned up in that, I'd like to see him on a big race. But the star performer of the day and probably the week is Aplutard. He was brilliant. And it's all systems going now for the Gold Cup, and I'd imagine he'll reverse the form of Manila Himno.
Yes, Aplutard then really throwing down a challenge. A question from Hugh Masson at home. What's the best horse John has called at a racecourse?
Well, probably Beauty Generation. It's a long story, but when I worked in Hong Kong, I was very much the second race caller, the junior man of the partnership, and usually I would do mostly the bad meetings, or the less vaunted meetings, shall we say. But there was one
you want
day.
To keep that door open. There's no bad meetings.
There was one day where my colleague Brett Davis got sick, and it was a big Group 1 day. There was 2 big races, one called the Stewards Cup, which is over a mile, and Beauty Generation. This was kind of before Beauty Generation became the horse that he became. He was running in it, a whole host of other really good runners, and it was the only Group 1 race. Well, there were 2 that day. Those 2 Group 1s are the only 2 Group 1s I've ever called. So he was just about the best racehorse in the world for about 6 months. So he'd be the best I've ever called. Here in the UK, I did call Epatante's first race at Exeter. Called it Epatante the whole way around as well, because I presumed that there was some kind of Spanish thing going on there, and obviously through my family, I'm a reasonably good Spanish speaker, and I thought we'll go with Epatante instead of Epatante, but then it's clearly French bred. Yeah, so I was wrong about that. But yeah, I did call her in the early stages of her career. And also I got the pronunciation right on this, I called Caribus's first race, his maiden at Newmarket a few months ago as well. And he looks a good one, I think it's fair to say.
He does, yeah. There you go. I hope that answers your question, Hugh. And they're still never proven whether John, you did just slip something in Brett's drink that day. I don't know. I mean,
it hasn't been proven because it didn't happen. It might have been something that I thought about, but no, it's interesting. It's interesting when it comes to this sort of thing. Yes, it is nice to do the big races, and people always think I'm just being very politically correct when I say this in terms of my employers, but it's a real great privilege to do this job, whether you're doing a Group 1 or you're doing, a less vaunted meeting, You
still get the thrill.
You still get the thrill. You still get the fee, and it's it's a really tremendous job to have. So hopefully one day there'll be a time where I'm doing sort of bigger races in this country, but I'm in no desperate rush to do it. And if it happens, it happens.
The way in terms of commentators' career span, you've got a good 20. You've got at least 20 years, haven't you?
That's the great thing. I mean, I am now the wrong side of 40, but there's still a long time. I could still be doing my best work 10 or 15 years time. So yeah, there's a long way to go, and it's just great to be here, Ross.
Yeah. It's great to have you here. And Tom Collins is so young. He could. Who knows? He could be the apocalypse. He could be our leader. Let's move on to Haydock for the 3:35. We've got a handicap chase to close off the day, and Strictly a Dancer comes back for his. It must be at least a fifth run. The fourth run. This autumn here for Christian Williams and Jack Tudor, 2.88 to back. Empire Steel, though, a lot of good words for Sandy Thompson's charge, 3.7. Ramesses de Tailly is probably badly pronounced there, 6-1. Joke Dancer, 10s. Fiddux, 20s. And again, Christian Williams having another crack. He was Strictly a Dancer. It didn't go very well for waiting patiently, but he's positioned this horse very nicely. This is a tougher race, though, isn't it, Ryan? Are you with him for the hat-trick, or do you fancy something at a bigger price?
I still think there's juice in his mark of 122, Ross, but my play in the race is going to be a £50 win bet on Empire Steel, the second favourite in here for Ryan Mannion and Sandy Thompson. Didn't spend too long over hurdles, only had the 2 starts over hurdles. We're going to take around 3.55 there. It didn't spend too long over hurdles, had 2 starts, and then went chasing straight away and progressed with each run, hammered Protectorat and Kelso. Probably wasn't his bag on that ground at that time of the year for Protectorat, but they probably aimed a little high at the end of the season and probably forced their hand the fact he beat Protectorat so easy. He ran in a mild maiden at the end of the season and pulled up probably a bit too high. But I think the handicapper's given him a big chance here off the mark of 140. When we look down through this race, there's a lot of dead wood in it, even though it's a small runner field. Potter's Corner ran a week ago in the cross-country race, ran okay, nothing more than that. Mr. Muldoon doesn't look particularly well handicapped to me. Fiddux, the trip, I'd have a little bit of worry about around here. And Ramesses de Tailly has a lot of weight to give away. So I think Empire Steel, first run of the season, I'd imagine Sandy Thompson had this race in mind from a little while back to start him off back here. He's a dour stayer, and although Strictly a Dancer is favourite and is entitled to be favourite off the back of his last 2 wins, I think Empire Steel is the play here at around 11-4 now, currently on the exchange.
Okay, Empire Steel then for Ryan. We're about a minute away from post time for the last as the gloom comes in. John, what's the last winner of the day for you?
I like Ramesses de Tailly. He has got a lot of weight to carry, but he's a real Haydock specialist. I can see what the Pipe Stable are doing with this horse as well. He looks like a real thorough stayer. He's been placed in the Welsh National. He has run well in the Haydock Park Grand National Trial here as well. But at times he's not really got home over the really extreme trips. I think the 3 miles is ideal. He had a nice pipe opener the other day over hurdles. I think they've thought, let's just try and drop him a little bit in trip, ride him positively. Yes, he got a lot of weight to carry, but he's just come down the handicap quite nicely. He's running the top staying handicap chasers now for the last couple of years.
He's similar to Don Levant in the sense of the races he's been taking in.
Yes, and I think he'll go well at the place he likes, and if he can get out and get into a nice rhythm, he'd be a good in-running play, I think. And he's drifting like the proverbial barge, but Fiddux, I thought ran quite well at Chepstow the other day, and there is one piece piece of form, albeit in a race at Haydock where they missed out a load of fences due to the dreaded low sun, where he ran rather well here in a novice chase. And I think the 3 miles will, I think, suit him. As I say, he's drifting, and that's not ideal. But I think he, as far as each way and extra place filth is concerned, that's what I've done in this race as far as he goes.
Me too. So we'll be looking for Fiddocks at 2-1 to finish in 3. I think for me personally, again, I think it's just good ground. He's got the figures on good ground. Tom, last bet.
Empire Steel for me. Ryan's made a great case for him. Just goes well fresh, and I'm still in love with Ryan Mania after you won on Midnight Shadow last week.
Lovely stuff. Well, I'm glad I wasn't in the studio with you there, as I very much fancied the second.
No.
But Haydock, they're off and racing then for this final race of the day. And again, it's another one that's interesting tactically here, John, because a few of these, again, Strictly a Dancer's been winning in big fields at Cheltenham, at amateur ridden, so he's going to have to do something a little bit different today.
Well, yeah, and I think they're going on a reasonable gallop here, but not doing anything breakneck. That's why I was against Strictly Dancer at the price, because that race at Cheltenham, it did go really rather quick, and those amateur races can sometimes fall apart a little bit and maybe just slightly flatter the winners. Ramsey State, this is exactly what I want as far as Fergus Gillard is concerned. Get to the front. Don't go overly hard, but make sure you make it a proper stamina-sapping contest in the end. And hopefully, fingers crossed, you get into a nice jumping rhythm as they go down the far side. Mr. Muldoon not too far away there as well. Joke Dancer got to a prominent position early. Ramsey's didn't jump that particularly brilliantly. Fiddocks towards the outside there, and then the 2 horses towards the top of the market there, Empire Steel and Strictly a Dancer at the back.
Yeah, and Joke Dancer just coming to throw down a bit of a challenge. I think Fiddocks taken a bit wide because he fiddled an early fence there, just to be given a bit of a clear sight of these fences. But Strictly a Dancer drifted out a little bit. He's held up last, again, at a course that you don't want to be too far behind over this trip. But he didn't jump that one fantastically well. He's a little bit weak in the market here, Ryan.
Yeah, joint favourites in run at the moment, Strictly a Dancer and Empire Steel, both in around 5-2. Front runner Ramsey Sataye has come in a point. BSP was 5.1. He's into around 3-1 now in the exchange. The rest are kind of big enough prices. Fiddocks is around 17 in midfield. But I'm happy with the way Empire Steel is jumping and travelling in midfield. He's taken a little bit of a pull, but he's travelling quite well. He's into now 2-1 on the exchange, so he's clear favourite. Strictly a Dancer has moved out a point out to 3-1 at the back mark of the field. But they're going steady enough, and Fergus Gillard seems to be dictating his own fractions in front.
Yeah, I mean, similar. Ramsey Sataye is very similar in a sense to Royal Pagay, in the sense that he's a proper Haydock horse whose best form comes on soft, but he's not entirely unproven. You don't know that he hates this ground. We just know he relishes soft ground. And
well, one of his good Haydock runs was on decent ground as well. So and I was quite happy the way he was jumping down the far side. He winged a couple, 1 or 2. He got a little bit tight too. Potter's Corner is an interesting horse. Well, I haven't really mentioned. He ran at Cheltenham last week in that cross country race, and they were very positive with him. I mean, if you go back to his Welsh national, his Midlands national success from a couple of years ago as well, they were 2 monster performances. Certainly the one at Uttoxeter, where he went toe to toe with that. Miss Parfois from a long way out. It was a tremendous effort. So I think if they can sweeten him up, there's still a decent staying handicap chase in him, or a good run and a decent staying handicap chase in him. But the moment, Ramsey Sataye going quite nicely, just bossing the race. Obviously that weight's going to kick in later on, but he might just still be able to carry it, And Fiddocks is going all right.
Yeah, of all the ones who, Strictly Dancer for me is the one who's not necessarily appreciating the way the race is being run, but he is the informed horse. I'm not discounting him completely, but just he's not jumping that well. He's held up last. Haydock in particular, I don't want to see a horse do that.
No, definitely not. And he's missed 3 fences in the straight there. He got in tight to all of them and bungled over. Look, he's still travelling well, and he's still well found in the market. 5.4 currently. But he's just the one that at the moment that you'd be slightly worried about. Ramsey Sataye is having the run of the race, and it just steadied it on the bend as well. Only going 28 mile an hour now. Empire still has jumped really well so far. Made 1 mistake, but then quickly recovered from it. I think he's the main danger to Ramsey Sataye.
I want young Mr. Gillard to start taking the initiative quite a long way out here. Really start to stretch him. He's ridden the horse.
He's not going to run out of gas, is he?
He's not. No. I mean, as I say, second in the Haydock Park Grand National Trial over 3 furlongs further. They want to, not necessarily now, but they want to put the foot on the gas quite a long way from him to really stretch them.
Okay, and in front of them, Ramsey Sataye, Joke Dancer. Fiddocks taking a noticeably wider passage than the rest of them. Strictly a Dancer again there, maybe not fantastic. The one we haven't mentioned is Mr. Muldoon. Quick word for Dr. Richard Newland's Charge, who is a dual Sedgefield winner, but again is a proper good ground horse. Ryan, talk to us through the market developments.
Yeah, 6-4 now, Empire Steel. catches the eye in behind the two leaders. Ramsey Detay is still travelling well in himself. The one that's struggling is the one he's mentioned, Strictly a Dancer. He's just not jumping with fluency. He's getting himself a little bit far back. He's not travelling too well. He's out to 4-1 now in the exchanges. Shorten out in 6-4 Empire Steel, heading towards 11-8 in behind the leaders. But Vidux, he's gave a good mention to, is into around 9.0, so 8-1. So he's travelling well on the outside, but it'll be just a question mark whether he'll fully see out the trip. But there's a few in with chances, but Strictly Dancer is definitely struggling out to 6-1.
Okay, yeah. As long as Vidux gets beaten 100 lengths into third, me and John
Yeah,
will be
very happy.
with that.
I'll be delighted.
Ramsey's Detay still in front then with the Joke Dancer. Strictly Dancer, he's not jumped many fences, John, but he's still in with a chance. Mr. Muldoon maybe struggling a little bit. Vidux, yeah, will he get home over this trip? But again, he's another good ground horse.
Yeah.
Empire Steel's had that perfect. He's had the Aplutard trip.
He's had the best trip. He's jumped really well as well. Hopefully Potter's corner's okay. He's just been pulled up. Mr. Muldoon looks beaten now. Strictly a Dancer niggled away at the back. Ramsey's Detay and Joke Dancer quickening up on the front. Empire still travelling really well in behind.
Yeah, still quite a few chances certainly turning for home, but I'm happy with the way things have gone for Ramsey's out in front, and Strictly a Dancer's actually getting into this race now, so he's not a forlorn hope. Yeah,
I tell you what, I mean, if he manages to win, given the way he's jumped, he's going to be he's still an incredibly well handicapped horse. So Joke Dancer is starting to feel the pinch now. Ramsey's Detay is also struggling. It could well be between the front two in the market. Strictly a Dancer down the centre in the gloom. Empire Steel still travelling well though, but he's just coming under a bit of pressure. Strictly a Dancer though still having a chance, but Ramsey's Detay still grinding out in front. Strictly a Dancer back on the bridle though is that jumping going to cost him. Ramsey's Detay still in front though from Strictly a Dancer, still grinding under Fergus Gillard. Strictly a Dancer now throwing down a challenge. Empire Steel has wilted back in third, but the favourite Strictly a Dancer hasn't jumped a fence yet, but is now throwing down a challenge to Ramsey's Detay, whose challenge looks to have wilted a little bit. Strictly a Dancer, that's his best jump for the whole race by quite a considerable margin, and he's gone on for about 3 or 4 lengths. Empire Steel is plugging on into second place. Vidux is running on into third place, but it's Strictly a Dancer who barely jumped a fence on that way around, but has gone on to score by a length and a half from Empire Steel. Vidux back in third, and Ramsey's Detay, bizarrely, didn't get home, but Strictly a Dancer barely jumped a fence early on, got better and better as the race progressed, and what was he, was he about a 15-8 shot before the race, Ryan? He went out to sort of 9-2, 5-1. He's won that very easily in the end.
Yeah, as you mentioned, one of the better jumps was at the last. He didn't jump too many well the whole way around. It was out to 7.6 is the high he hit in running, so 13-2. Punters who took that will be happy enough coming to the last, as he kind of had the race in the bag at that stage. Empire Steel hit 1.66 in running, travelled well, probably a bit too well for his own good. And although he did run on well to the line, maybe just flat foot, a bit outpaced, kind of halfway up the straight, and that kind of cost him. Whereas Ramsey's Detay hit 6-5, 2.2 on the run. So plenty of action in running, and Vidux ran on well to snatch third. So another 3-place winning bet for you in the studio.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, if Dave's in here and I'm on the pundit's chair, he looks at me like I'm picking pennies up off the street or something. But
it's the biggest misnomer in betting. That each way betting is bad or something you shouldn't do. And I remember years ago, my old dad told me that he once asked a bookie what was the worst type of bet to take, and he said 2 units to win, 5 units to place. Now, not all bookies would take those bets in those days, but those that didn't like them because you've got a situation where you've got a bit in the win market, but more in the place market, and the shrewdies know how to play that. And the wonderful thing now with Betfair is that you can do that, and you can get involved. And
you don't have to do the win.
Yeah, exactly. And jump racing as well, especially, and I was saying this about staying handicap chasers, because you've got big margins at times. You don't have to be particularly right to still make a few quid. Whereas flat, I mean, if you try and find a 6 furlong race at Happy Valley like I'm doing on a Wednesday lunchtime in Hong Kong, your horse can be beaten half a length into fourth. And, you're thinking, oh, blimey, that horse has run well, but it's just been chinned. So jump racing gives you, I think, still, and I don't make money punting, but it's still, for me, it gives you a much better vehicle for making a few quid, and today has kind of shown that, so.
Yeah, like I said, I think my shift was, you have to shift your mind to, do you want to back winners or do you want to make profit?
Yeah.
You can go around saying, "Oh, I backed 3 winners today," and still end up losing money.
What's the most crucial part of that? Is it the winners or the profit? It's the profit, isn't it?
Well, there's very rarely a month comes around and the bank goes, "We need your mortgage payment, Mr. Brierley," and I go, "I backed a few winners."
Yeah, exactly.
Still cash, please.
Exactly.
Yeah, but last 4 favourites have won as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's been a very good day. Obviously, Empire. I would have preferred Empire still there, but it's been a very good day for favourite backers, and I've put up a few winners. I'm just still gutted about Defi de Soy. It's the one there that I thought was going to really come back to form today and just didn't. But look, you can't have everything, can't be greedy. It's been a good day of action, and we kick on tomorrow for some more jumps action, I imagine. I'll be at home, got the day off.
Got the day off and still watching the
don't
racing.
get weekend days off ever, so I'm really looking forward to it.
So you're going to watch the racing?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you might as well work.
Yeah, that's true.
But, and John, thanks for. Have you enjoyed it? It's been
absolutely,
fun.
It's marvellous. Like I say, I don't get the chance on many Saturday afternoons to just kick back and watch the racing and talk about it with informed people. So it's been great.
Yeah, exactly. And Ryan, thanks ever so much for joining us. You've had a pretty good day as well, and you've not even had to leave the house.
No, exactly. Yeah, he was putting a little bit more effort than me, but I was working this morning early enough, so I think I'm back on in the next couple of weeks as well. So no, it's been really enjoyable debut on it, and looking forward to next week.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that, Ryan. And Racing Post Live Extra is of course coming up on Monday night, our brand new Monday night show. So do tune in for that. Thanks you for everyone for watching at home as well. George Moody says he loves the filthy each way. I agree, George. I'm very, very much in your camp for that. Hugh Masson says great show, lads. An eye-catching debut from John. He's going in all the notebooks. Hugh Masson says Empire still should have won that. And Aplutard wins the Gold Cup easy, says Aaron Casey. Thank you to everyone at home. Part of me wants to go without going over to Tom Collins, because he's clearly got a horse that he fancies in America tonight.
Yeah, just one US tip. Well, there's 2, but I'll give you one. Iconic Adventure, race 7 at Aqueduct, 7:43. Second time up for Bill Mott, owned by Godolphin. Really impressive first time. Promising run in second. I think we'll bounce back. Gets our Red Ortiz tonight. Iconic Adventure. Yes, exactly.
Next to him talking about American racing.
When does Tom Collins sleep?
Never.
Is the question. Thank you to Ryan, thank you to Tom, thank you to John, and thank you to everyone who watched at home. If you haven't already, like and subscribe as well. Those likes to. We need to game that algorithm, because what's life about if it's not gaming an algorithm? That's for sure. But I hope you enjoyed the show here today. We'll be back for more action next week, of course, and Monday night for Racing Post Live Extra. I've been Ross Brierley. You've been wonderful. See you soon.